Oh. All right. Hey, how's it
Oh,
going?
good, good, good. Let me put my earphones on. Been having a little issue here. I don't want you to get the echo.
I've got some network issues this evening. I'm really hoping that this is not going to become a huge problem.
Yeah, you were
Nate
frozen
is
for.
frozen for me for some reason.
Yeah, you were frozen for me for a little while. Now you're moving. I can see you.
There we go. All right. Woo. Okay. My internet kept literally dropping off entirely. So for the last 20 minutes or so. So I'm yeah. Hopefully that is it, and we can have a good live stream.
Cool. We are on. What's
Woo.
going
All
on?
right.
How you doing
Uh,
today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's
Uh oh. I heard I'm doing well, and you froze up on me a little bit there.
to the States and seeing my parents, my folks, my families to see everybody for Christmas. So just sort of that. Yeah. I keep coming in and out, aren't I?
Yeah, yeah. I felt too bad to tell you, but yeah, you, you're breaking up. I don't know if you even heard me.
Oh, let's see here. Maybe.
I'm trying to see. I'm just trying to make it. I'm just looking at the stream, making sure it's just not me.
Oh no.
Yeah, yeah. It's you.
Here we go. I can. Oh, I heard you for a second. Oh, dang it. Okay.
All right.
Now I can hear you again. Oh my
You
God.
can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Here's a mic check. Mother country, Nigeria. You
Yes.
heard that? All right. Boom.
Oh man. Oh, that's
uh,
awesome.
what's
Oh, that
taking
was
the
good.
jury so long in the MAGA kids? What's happening there? What's going on? It's scaring me up here.
I don't know because it seems like I mean the case is relatively simple, right? I mean it's a false police report, right? Or are there any other charges that I'm not aware of?
I think they're charging them with what's it called, disorderly conduct. But yeah, this is essentially it's filing a false police report and
Yeah.
staging the whole stuff. So I don't know how what's taking the jury so long. I see you saw BLM come out talking about they backed Jussie Smollett. It's like what the really.
Well, I mean, it's like once you take a position, you just never change, I guess, for some people. I don't
Uh,
agree with that. I think that if you do it based on the facts, it's better to much better to reevaluate from time to time, and when new facts come out, it's perfectly reasonable to change your mind, but that's not everybody. I guess maybe that's a luxury of being an individual as opposed to an organization. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I listen. I'm just going to say it. BLM is full of crap, right? I can't say the word I really want to say because I want to try to keep this monetized. Number two is you got a situation where black people put nooses on other black people's neck. Matter of fact, Juicy put it on his own neck, and that somehow is racism. I don't get it, but BLM is back, and I think BLM is going to the next level with this thing. It's just like, really, really. So, what can you do? What can you do?
Well, yeah. I also I came across on Twitter from I guess the Colbert not the Colbert Report. That's not it.
She froze up on me. Ah, at the
Uh
worst possible time. There you go. You're
there
back
we
to
go.
life. There it is.
I really hope
You
about
froze
this
on me
live stream.
again.
Um but oh no, now you're frozen for me, which means I'm probably frozen for you
No,
too.
you're good now. You're good now.
Um
I got to take this over. I'm gonna take it over to my Nigerian accent. Just think about what happened in that situation until Alita comes back. You got Jesse. He's like, all right, let's practice this up. I want you to say, this is MAGA country President Trump. And they're like, this is MAGA country Premier Trump. No. There's no premier. It's President. President Trump. Like, MAGA, no. Oh, you back? Alita's back.
I appreciate you holding down the fort while I go frozen again.
I'm just trying to figure out how do you get that name? And he's got to be like, you know what? It's not Maga, it's Maga. Okay, Maga. I'm saying the same thing
Yeah.
you said, Jesse. Maga, right? Maga. So I
Oh
don't know. I don't
man.
know what the hell's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
So
Jim Duggar, guilty on all counts.
convicted also. Yeah, this was a new recent development, which I haven't been talking about that case really at all. Have you talked about it on your channel at all?
Not really, because it was like the law can't just give you every easy case, right? They caught him with a whole. It's like catching a bank robber with all the cash. It's like, is he guilty or not? It's a prediction. It's just like it's an easy win. They caught him with all that, questionable pictures involving people under the age. That's so we can still continue to be monetized.
Yes.
But those pictures, they got him with a stash of them, right? And trading them with FBI agents. It was a no-brainer. I'm surprised he didn't take a plea.
Yeah. I'm.
Oh
my gosh. Am I frozen again?
All right, you're back now. You're back. All right.
Yeah. So and Emily D. Baker has been covering this one pretty extensively. Yeah. So for anybody that is interested in kind of going back from the beginning and getting up to this point, go to her channel because she's been all up on it. But so finally that verdict is in. While we're still waiting on the Jussie Smollett verdict. Yeah, I wonder what is taking them so long because yeah, it doesn't seem like the jury instructions would be that complicated in this one.
Yeah, I just don't see how you get this one confused. It's as simple as possible. Somebody's the check. You got the video of them actually doing it like a couple of days before in 4K. It's like, what more do you need to know, right? What more do you need to know? I kind of feel the same way about Rittenhouse. I'm like, this was kind of an easy case. What the hell's taking the jury so long? But it is what it is.
Yeah. Which I mean, then again, for Chauvin, it was super fast, right? So I'm wondering if. You got me? You there?
All right. Yes. Okay. I was like, next time you freeze, I'm just going to freeze too. Like,
Oh man. Yeah. So I wonder if it's an indication that the jury's going to go swing away from the media portrayal because maybe they want to be a little bit more deliberate in their conclusion.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. I don't know what the hell they doing, but hopefully they want to make, maybe they just want to make sure they dotting all the T's and crossing the I's. They could come back not guilty. They come back with not guilty. That's going to shock the world. It's like, what? He's not guilty, but
yeah.
I just don't know how you get there. But if he is, then they should pay those lawyers like triple whatever they're making now because they pulled off a straight up miracle. That would be a miracle.
That would be a miracle.
Oof. So we got Josh Duggar done. Jussie Smollett is still in the bank. And we got Kim Potter. And I see Nick is over there doing God's work looking at Kim Potter.
Yes. He's working on Kim. Yeah, sorry, I was distracted for a second. I got a message from Good Logic. And he's going to be joining us to talk about the Gislaine Maxwell trial update, which from what I saw on Twitter, apparently it was they had a late start today, or I'm not sure if they actually were getting into it today because one of the prosecutors is ill, I guess.
Maybe.
Which of course leads everyone to be highly suspicious of whatever this mystery illness is.
Maybe it's the coronavirus, right? Coronavirus. 14 days they're gonna take it out. That always it's crazy now, the world we live in. Because think about that Michigan shooter, right? I want everybody in the chat, think about the Michigan case, right? That Michigan shooter. If that kid went to that principal's office and instead of having a note saying I'm about to shoot the whole place up and kill everybody, he put a note here, I've had COVID symptoms for the past 5 days. Do you think they would have kept him in school? No. Right? No. He would have been gone. You froze up again?
Yes.
Yeah, but I was keeping them entertained. I asked the chat a question, but I don't think they got it.
You were asking about the Michigan shooter, right?
Yeah, I was saying the world is so crazy now. Just imagine if that kid, instead of writing a note saying he about to shoot all the whole place up, instead of he just wrote a note to say I had COVID symptoms for the past 5 days. His ass would have been going home quick, right? Quick.
True.
He would have been. They would have been sitting there talking about, oh, well, should we keep it? He'd have been gone. But he says, help me. I'm about to shoot the place up. Let's send him back to class for let's send him back to class. Don't worry, he'll be okay. What? The chat is saying, try reconnecting. Try reconnecting.
Yeah, I'm wondering. Well, I did that. I literally restarted the router a couple times. I think it's not StreamYard, and it's not just my internet, because I know other people in the building were having a similar sort of issue. So yeah, this is tricky.
They're watching you. They're watching your internet service.
I guess so. Yeah, I'm being monitored, right?
What are the codes for the nukes? Tell me the codes.
I have none of that information.
But we are international call, so just everybody to know that this is what the Patriot Act was. When you're on an international call talking to somebody, they're listening, making sure we're not saying the wrong words here, right? Come on.
For sure.
That's right.
All right. So Joe, let me know. Good Logic, let me know that apparently the court wrapped early today. So he's getting his car and he's going to drive to a place that has decent reception so he can join us. Right. So that'll be good, because otherwise there was a question if maybe he was going to just try to call in, because his reception hasn't been very good. So we're dealing with multiple reception issues here today.
Well, the CIA is listening, so I want to say one thing.
Of course.
Allah Akbar!
Oh no! What are you doing?
My country! No, make sure they watch this. Let them watch this for 24 hours. Like, this guy's ridiculous.
All of a sudden, I have no YouTube channel. Gee, I wonder why. No. Oh man. But yeah, so let's so that's basically it for Jussie Smollett, right? Like there's really not much news since we had talked last week. I mean, I don't know if last week at that point, if there had already been that story that came out about the judge lunging and snarling at the defense attorney, apparently when they moved for a mistrial on that basis. Yeah. But that's one of the things that's like, that is why we need cameras in these courtrooms sometimes, because otherwise you make an accusation and the public is just going to be like, well, either I believe it or I don't, depending on the reporting. And so, yeah, but if you have actual cameras in there, people can actually see for themselves and make up their own minds.
But that's a hell of a picture, though. The judge lunging at poor Jussie. Was he lunging at Jussie, or was he lunging at the attorney? The attorney's hot, though. She's cute. So I understand if he's a judge. He's like, oh my God, I see a beautiful attorney. But
but snarling at the same time.
Yeah. I want this. Objection overruled.
Yeah, I've known some mean judges in my practice, but I've never known one to actually. I mean, under what circumstances would one even be able to lunge? Because you're usually not even anywhere near the judge.
That's true.
Like you're down either at the table in the courtroom or at a podium, and the judge is up on their higher, holier than thou sort of area where the judge is, behind a really big desk. So I don't know. It was a very curious situation.
She might have been like, yo, you can't judge me. Like, what? I'm coming down there. I don't know what happened. It's just, that's all desperation for the, I don't even know. It just, these cases just seem crazier and crazier and crazier. But the good part about it is that a lot of people are starting to get to see behind the curtain. It's like the Wizard of Oz, right? You get to see behind the curtain and see how the sausage is made. And I think that's the one great thing about us covering these trials in the way we do, because we allow people to not only just see behind the curtain, but also understand why things are happening. Like even in the Kim Potter trial. Matter of fact, before we move back to Kim Potter, did you check out when you first heard the Jussie Smollett story?
Yeah.
What did you find it questionable, or were you just like all in the bag for it? Because I know a lot of people believed it when they first heard it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I immediately believed it, but I was open to the possibility of it being true.
Yeah.
And so I didn't, I didn't want to make any conclusions one way or another. I didn't want to I didn't want it to be true, but that doesn't mean that I was, rejecting any kind of evidence of it being true.
It's funny. A friend of mine, recently, we were talking, and he was like, "Yo, he felt embarrassed because we were, I've been making fun of this thing the whole week." So he was like, "Yo, I'm a little embarrassed because I believed the story like when it first came out." And I'm like, "Why?" Based on, because he's like, based on everything we know now, it's obviously seems stupid for us to believe it. He's like, "But why?" But he said he really didn't believe the story because he never thought about it. He just believed all the reports. He was like, wouldn't Kamala Harris, wouldn't all these big name people in these news organizations, what they all had done? His impression was they would have all had done their due diligence before they put a story out so explosive like that and made everybody look like a fool. So his beliefs were not really based on the story, but based on the sources that were giving him the story. And then he says when you just think about it and just look at what they were saying, it was like, oh, okay, it was all stupid based on what they were saying, but you just wouldn't realize that because you believe the sources. He said, I believe Kamala Harris and those people. I believed all these people, ABC News and all these people because they were, they were trusted sources at that time. And that's, I think, the big issue with the Jussie Smollett thing is because people didn't believe this. I think if you think about the story, questions. But if you just looked at what the news was covering it, it was like, okay, this happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of the other comments that followed with people being, immediately supportive of him coming out of Hollywood and the political left. Of course, that there was bound to be that much, that kind of support, I think, because that tends to be what happens in these kinds of situations, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that I was going to say earlier was that on Colbert's show, I saw from like right after it happened. Um, uh, I can't remember his new name, but he used to go by Ellen Page. Very sorry, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. But the new name, I'm unfamiliar. At the time, he was she, or he was presenting as she. Really trying to be respectful.
The new guy.
Yes. Yeah. So Elliot, thank you.
Elliot.
So Elliot, yes. Thank you. Thank you. So Elliot was like going off on this like very, very, very dramatic thing about how, Donald Trump's words have an impact and this is the thing that happens and what else can you possibly expect? And it was a very, very, it was a very impassioned sort of dramatic speech that seemed to be very sincere, maybe.
Mm-hmm. I think it was sincere. I think you're froze up again, so I'm going to take the mic for a second. But I think it was sincere. But I think it was sincere from someone who doesn't know the facts, who didn't understand, and was just being emotional to the trigger, right? This person says they got attacked because they're gay. It's easy to jump behind that and say, yes, 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 and join the cause. But it's hard to say that's not what happened. It's hard to say that's not America today. That was America in the 1950s, maybe the 1980s or 1990s. But America today is a very different place. And I think, and I always feel like between conservatives and liberals, conservatives want you to think sometimes that we're in some type of race utopia. No, it's just not the case. But then liberals want you to make it think like we're back in slavery. And it's like, hell no, it's not the case, right? I think we're closer to the utopia than slavery. But I also think that there are issues that we have to resolve. And I think if you're somebody who's being honest with the system, there's no way. I say this to no matter what black person, minority, anywhere in the planet, if you are a black man or woman living in the world today, there is no better place on earth to raise your kids and be the United States of America. And you can say whatever you want to whoever you want, but I'll take that to the grave, and I'll bet anybody a paycheck that that's actually true. Right. So you can say, they can say whatever they want, but and I can say that that's valid true in all of human history. In all of human history, the best time to be a black man living in the world today is here in the United States with the problems that we have. That's saying something, So I don't know. Maybe I'm a flag loving maniac, but USA,
Yeah,
baby.
no, I completely agree. I completely agree. I think that there's been no better time to live in America, and I still believe that America is the best place to live. And I say that living overseas. I love being overseas. I love, seeing the world, experiencing different walks of life. But at the end of the day, I always love coming home. It's like going through immigration, coming back to the United States from whatever port you're coming in through, whatever airport, I don't care. It's like there's always that feeling of a sigh of relief of like, I am home. I don't care which coast it is or whether it's somewhere in the middle. I am home because this is the best place in the world to be. uh
You're like, oh, it's funny. Alita's frozen up again. It's funny. I live in Harlem, so they were always talking about the Back to Africa movement. Like, oh, we want to go back to Africa. We want to go back to Africa. And I remember they was out there asking us, do you want to go back to Africa? I'm like, hell no, I'm not going back to Africa. It's tough to get a sandwich back to Africa. Have you been to Africa? You see how they be living over there? I'm not trying to head over to Africa. I'm happy being where I'm at right now. Let them get the bomb, get some civil society, build up, to be like one of the superpowers. Then I'll go to Africa, right? But not now. I'm like, I know people who live in Africa and they're not trying to get back to Africa. They're trying to get back to the United States. So yeah, this is not 90 Day the other way. I'm staying here. Y'all go back to Africa and leave all the money here. But ain't none of those people go back to Africa. They stayed there behind here too. So
that's
you
right.
back?
Thanks so much. I really appreciate you taking over in these moments because this is awful. This is like hocus pocus out of focus, like like I can see, guys, I know that you guys are talking about how I'm blurry and Nate is crystal clear on the live stream. I see it. I don't know what the issue is. It has nothing to do with the internet that we're paying for.
Go to where it says camera and mic.
Yeah.
On the bottom, and go to where it says where your camera, and go to where it says show advanced settings, and turn and it should say camera resolution, and go to low definition
or low definition,
and it should at least maybe clear it up a little bit.
Whoa! Now I'm all like,
too much. It froze up again. Iceman, by the way, frozen.
All right, I'm going back.
Yeah, go back to the other one.
Back to high definition. Oh, all right.
Oof. All right, I think you're frozen again. Somebody said, Dole Elmo says Kamala and Booker was getting a Fed anti-lynching bill sometime at Smollett incident. Yeah, they were trying to use the Smollett incident. Oh, that's true, because they were trying to get that bill passed, and all of a sudden Smollett's got a noose around his neck that he put around his own neck, mind you. That's a very interesting point. I hate you people in the chat. Making me think. Now I gotta go research it. I'm gonna be soon researching that shit.
All right, Nate, if I freeze one more time, I'm restarting my computer. So I'm going to give you like a few minutes to just say whatever you want on my live stream.
All right. Get ready.
So I'm sure it's going to happen again. So hopefully it'll be the last time and I'll be able to come back and actually have a decent live stream.
No, we'll try it now. Try to restart now because it's going to happen again.
You know what? Let me do that. All right.
Don't worry,
cool.
I got you.
All right. Woo. All right, here we go.
All right. So Alita's gone. You know what? I've been wanting to tell you guys this for a long time. Number one, this is not Legalbytes. This is MAGA Country, Nigeria. Yes, baby. We are here. Jussie Smollett. So, what questions do you people have in the chat? Let's talk about it. Nate Bites, ASMR Nate. I don't do ASMR. Come on, let's talk about it. Now, listen, I gotta say, we've been having a lot of fun with the Jussie Smollett. Did you guys see the Kim Potter stuff yesterday? Because the Kim Potter stuff was great. And you know, and I hate to watch these trials because people always talk about me. Like yesterday, I was having a good time watching poor mama get tore up on cross-examination. So for those of you who don't know what happened yesterday. Yesterday at the Kim Potter trial, they had his mother take the stand, and she was a character witness. He's such a good boy. He's done nothing wrong. He's running around, right? On cross-examination, she got cut her behind up. Now, I'm a fan of great legal tactics, and that was fantastic yesterday. So if you guys gotta watch that, it was he tore the mama up. Let's see some of these super chats. Kate says you cover former Obama Senator staff Tina Tichin, leaning on State's Attorney Fox, who dropped original 16 felonies case. # me too. I didn't know that, Kate. But you know what, though? I think that's why the Jussie Smollett case is like what it was. Let's be quiet about this. The Obamas were involved with Jussie Smollett. The current Vice President Kamala Harris, was a personal friend of his. Calls were made to say, don't prosecute Jussie. That's what happened. So, yeah, the left doesn't want to say that. They don't want to say that. Whoosh, Josh Duggar found guilty. All counts. But that's an easy one, though. People are like, yo, Nate, can you predict the Josh Duggar case? I'm like, they caught him with all the stuff in his hands, right? It's like he's caught, he's done. Predicting that was nothing. That a prediction there would have just been like, Nate, you just add an extra one to the list just to add it to the list, But only thing I'm glad OJ didn't come because if I had to predict the OJ case, I'd have been went the wrong way. First prosecutor was Michelle Oldstaff. Oh yeah. Come on, listen. For those of you who don't know who I am, I give it to you real. Of course, Jussie is deep within the left's deep state. He's deep in there. He knows. We know what's going on. For those of you who don't know what's going on with Jussie Smollett, wake up, right? Wake up. He's in Chicago. He's far right. He's been giving money to all these people. Yeah, come on. He was going to get a pass. Dapper Dave says, Nate, you have finally to admit it. You took the red pill and have seen the truth about the mainstream media. You don't know me. Ever since I came on YouTube and been doing videos, I've been screaming the mainstream media is crap, and we all know that. Come on, we all know that. Since Breonna Taylor, they lie about everything. They lie about everything. So it's just what it is. It's just what it is. And the one interesting thing about the one interesting thing that I always find about the media is even when they have good cases, they still lie to you. Like, for instance, Ahmaud Arbery. ABC just did this whole workup about how Ahmaud Arbery was this jogger running through the neighborhood. Now, he got killed. His killers are in jail for life. Okay. But why then make this whole lie that he was some jogger? He's an avid jogger, jogging every day. He wasn't jogging that morning. You don't jog into anybody's living room, right? You don't jog looking into people's houses. That's not what he was doing. Matter of fact, during the trial, the prosecution could not call him a jogger because there was no evidence that he ever jogged in the neighborhood. But guess what? Those are the lies they want to tell. Even on a case they easily won. And let me not even start about Rittenhouse. Listen, the Rittenhouse thing is at another level, right? It's at another level. I got a video coming about that. But the Rittenhouse stuff is literally at another level. It's crazy. The Anti-Defamation League, right? The people who go and say, okay, these are racist people. They went and they looked into the whole Rittenhouse thing, right? They looked into it. They're like, oh, let's look at the social media post. They looked into all that stuff. Came out, so we find nothing. The guy's matter of fact, he supports Black Lives Matter. You think the media took that? You think the media looked at that and said, oh my God, we were wrong. He's not a racist. He's not a white supremacist. Shocking, huh? Well, we made a mistake. No. They still have people calling him a white supremacist. It's like, what? Really? But that shows you it exposes them for what they are. That's why I appreciate it. First sound, Nate, about women's soccer. Let's talk about women's soccer. I hope all of you join me because they're going to have their thing, I think, in January. So I'm live streaming that. I hope you guys all join me for the women's soccer. It's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. And women's soccer for another. Oh my God. Don't even get me started on women's soccer. I still remember when I first read that case. Now, it shows you how bad even I am, right? Even me. So women's soccer comes along and I'm reading the crap and I'm checking it out. And I'm like, all right, they won all this thing. They're getting paid equal pay. I was fooled with women's soccer, right? I was fooled. Then I read the court case and I was like, yo, the media's been lying to everybody for over a year. They lied to us all. And that's the reason why those videos did well. Because I said, you know what? Let me just explain what happened so people can understand it, right? Because it's just, when you're talking about the women's soccer thing, you got contracts, you got this, you got that, you got pay stuff, I'm like, yo, is there some way I can explain this to people using just the facts so everyone can understand what's going on, right? And that's always the thing that we try to do. We try to explain it so people can understand what's going on, because it's just so complicated, right? It's just so complicated. But then so I said, you know what? How would I do it? Because a lot of you don't know, I used to be I was a law school professor, so I'm always thinking about how to explain it so it's still, you can understand the legal principles of it, but just keep it simple. And with the U.S. soccer thing, that's exactly what I did. I just kept it nice and simple and was like, all right, I can keep it nice. And like millions of people watched that video. Millions of people. You don't know. I still to today get hundreds of emails. Thank you so much. Oh my God, you've woken my eyes up. Oh my God. I didn't think this could be true until I read it for myself. That's the goal here. And it's funny because I say, if I never do another video on anything ever again, the fact that I opened up millions of people's eyes to the truth. I think no one else can say that they've opened up millions of people's eyes to the truth of something, to the truth. That's what it's about. And that's what I strive for every day. That's why I like to shock you people. I like to shock you people with facts. Here are the facts. Oh my God. I was lied to. Let me take. I can't put them up on because I'm not the moderator here, but I'm a moderator in the chat, but I'm not a moderator here in StreamYard. So, MAGA country never gets old. But just imagine that, though. Let's say he didn't know who it was, right? Just imagine that, MAGA country, and they beating him up, and he's like, they sound like white guys, and then eventually you get there, you're like, they don't sound like white guys, and being up there in trial. You're still at trial. And you're like, yeah, they sounded like white guys. And these guys are testifying. Oh, he told me to say MAGA country. And I said, if you just say MAGA country and General Trump, I love you. And they're like, what? He doesn't sound white. Come on, But this is this. Oh, this is Aaliyah. You're on your phone now, huh?
I have to be on my phone because otherwise it's not working. I'm able to use data, thankfully, but this is probably the best that it's gonna be. Oh my God, thank you so much for holding down the fort.
I'm talking to the void now. I can't believe I'm talking. 100 more people came here to listen to me talk shit. Everybody.
They heard I left. So they're like, all right, let's come
in. Oh my God.
Oh man.
Yo, but you know what? Yesterday, Kim Potter trial. Because we were on Nick's stream yesterday with that. What did you think about the mom getting? What do you think about the cross exam? Oh, yesterday too. The Loracle struck hard yesterday too. The Loracle came out yesterday.
Yes. What was it that you called?
What was it? The cross examination of the mom with the whole with the warrant. Well, I was like, he's gonna ask you to see the warrant. And he said, I was like, oh yeah, boom. The warrant.
Yes.
And people actually think I'm watching this. I watched that trial. I had watched that trial before I made that call. I'm like, we're watching it live. He's literally live. How the hell could I watch this before? What are you guys talking about? I'm watching it live with you guys. And somehow I saw it an hour before. I'm like, how the fuck this is just happening now?
Oh man. Yeah. No, it was good. So I think that there were a lot of people that were talking about her tears and saying that they were crocodile tears. I think I would never say that. I think they were definitely real tears. I think that anytime you have any sort of a family member that is going up, when their son or their brother or their great nephew, like in Rittenhouse, anyone that has died, you like to go in thinking that they're going to be not authentically showing emotion is, I think, not the best way to go about it, because you kind of have to assume that she's a grieving mother. She's going to be crying. She's going to be upset. That's normal. It's normal. And you
Mhm.
can and you can agree that she is feeling very sincere emotions, and then also agree that what she's saying is either correct or not correct. She may
Yeah.
be inaccurate in what she's saying. She may not remember things properly, because the video that they were showing, she was very the video that they were showing from the moment that she learned and when she arrived on the scene, she was obviously very emotional about her son having died. And she was saying that I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was something that wasn't exactly accurate about what she had been told about what had happened. And she was talking about how she wanted to go and she wanted to see the girl that shot him, talking about Kim Potter. But I think you can agree that she was having a very raw emotional moment, and also agree that there were factual inaccuracies there. So
Yes.
it doesn't take away from either one of those.
Well, it's interesting because generally, for all you people who don't really know how the criminal trial thing stuff go, it's generally reversed. We're watching something actually in reverse in terms of the defense is usually the emotional piece of it. Oh my God, look at the emotion, look how it feels, that type of thing.
Mhm.
And when you go to the other side, it's usually the prosecution who's here the facts, here's the law. Let's just look at the facts and the law. But here we have the exact opposite, where the prosecution is really trying to put
Yeah.
in an emotional case, and the defense is like, here are the facts. And I think that it actually is better for the defense when the case is like that, because that's what we saw
Yeah.
yesterday. Mama got on there, she cried, she did tears, it was all emotional, heart went out to her. But then it's like, well, then we learned he was driving without a license, without insurance. He never had a license, right? He's smoking weed in the car, and and he's got a warrant for his arrest and what's it called, and an order of protection. Like, what do you do with all that information, right? And
Yeah.
the mother, she's you got all that from her, and so that's what I'm talking about. And I think at the end of the day, two things happened poorly. I think the police department where Kim Potter worked, they have a couple of issues. They have tactical issues. As someone I've trained law enforcement officers before, and you can tell in that police stop. I'm going to say it. Dante Wright was the person who's responsible for that whole situation, because he's resisting arrest, right? When you're resisting arrest, anything can happen. That's why they tell you don't resist arrest. That's why it's illegal. This is a charge in New York City. If you resist arrest, you get a charge. You charge with resisting arrest. But I'm talking about in his situation, the police tactics were bad. In terms of, for instance, when he came out and they asked him to come out, usually, if people don't realize this, generally, if police ask you to get out the car, they'll say, "Oh, come to the back with us." And I don't know if anybody's ever had to get out the car with the police, but you'll notice they'll say either come to the back, and they'll close the door. Now, why do we do that?
Mhm.
Because we know mother effers want to jump back into the car and drive off if they can, right? So you close the door, make it harder for them to jump into the car. You take them to the back. Now you got some place to run. And everything should be nice and calm before you start pointing cuffs on them. You surround them, right? It should have been both of them on either side of him. Explain to him, hey, listen, we got to put you under arrest for this. Now, if you got to struggle, you're outside the car. But they didn't use proper tactics, and those proper tactics cost them, because by leaving the door open, by telling him he's under arrest and he's not going home, you gave him all the opportunities to resist. And he shouldn't have resisted, true. But that's what happens when you get bad police tactics. They compound the situation and it becomes even worse. And that's what happened here.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
I completely agree. Yeah, that was very kind. Thank you. I know it's a much closer up frame for me, than what I usually have. Um, but yeah, no, I do agree. And one of the other interesting things that came out was, on cross-examination. That cross-examination is difficult to do, right? Because, like I said, this is a very sympathetic witness. You have to kind of assume that the jury is going to find the emotions there sincere. So
yeah.
cross-examining someone like that too hard can really only come back to haunt you.
You could
So
backfire.
and exactly what I remember what you said was that the only way to do this is going to be by going very factually, and that's exactly what he did. And that was Mr. T Man, Earl Grey, Mr. T.
Mr. D,
um,
Earl Grey.
and he did a really fantastic job. Like that is exactly how you cross-examine a very sympathetic emotional witness. Is you don't attack their emotions, you don't attack the sincerity of their emotions at all. You let them land where they land, and you just go fact by fact, kind of showing some inconsistencies from what they are saying. So basically, kind of what I was saying earlier is that showing the jury that yes, you can believe that this person is sincerely feeling all of these emotions, and at the same time, you can also believe that what they're saying is not fully accurate. So you can kind of
Yes.
distinguish between the two.
Yes.
And
Also,
so, and yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna. Well, no. My thing was about so you can work with the chat and everything. Maybe you can do your camera through here, but you should have your computer on, and then you can do the back end stuff through your computer still, because it's easy to do the back end stuff through your computer.
Yeah, my internet is still being
But even
wonky.
because you won't need to do your
It's
internet to put yourself on, because you're doing it through your camera. You can like put the chat. You know how that you can put the chat up front, like, because I know it's tough to do it in
yeah,
your own screen. It happened to me before. That's why. So I was
yeah,
my internet was stuck. So on a computer I could put chats up and stuff because it's easier to do.
yeah.
But then my camera
To
was the phone.
yeah. No, it's my pages are literally not reloading right now, even though
Oh,
I'm technically connected. So I'm
you're like,
I'm
I
basically
can't
screwed.
do it.
I
'Cause
have
you're
I
on
have
the
I have
phone.
gone I have gone from two big screens to one teeny tiny screen.
I can
Oh no.
do it.
Now they're slowly refreshing. Here we go.
I hate that. I hate that so much. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
It's like, yeah, it's my worst nightmare. It's my
Yeah, it
absolute worst
happens.
nightmare. But yeah,
And we still
yeah,
got, how many
you're
people
right.
got watching this thing? We still got what 500 people watching. You see, that's because
Hey,
we able to hold it
hey,
up, baby.
hey, that's all you, man. That's all you. You've been holding the
No.
fort while I've been running around my apartment trying to figure out a solution.
You
Joe
look
said
good
that
now.
he's
This
on
is
his
good.
way.
Joe's on his
Yeah,
way.
I know.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
Joe's on his way. Well, actually with StreamYard now you can do like multiple people moderating. So I don't know if you have to set it up ahead of time. If I don't, I would like to set you up as a moderator in case something happens to me,
Oh,
in case
yeah,
I
but
get Epstein off of my own stream.
I think you have to. I think you have to make it so we all have to sign in before we come in. This
Yeah,
is just like a way you make everybody
probably.
sign in, and then when they sign in, they can do it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fine. That's whatever.
Uh,
So, but anyhow, but Joe said that he's on his way. So, now I have some internet. We'll see.
oh, good. Well, I know
So,
I have to go. I do have to go in 10, 15 minutes to go pick up my kid, because my kid gets off at
okay.
1:30. So, but I'll be
Sure.
back after that though. So
Okay.
I'm trying to
Okay.
hold it
Hopefully I'll still
before
be
then.
here.
You will still be here. Do you find now? Now you're not talking to your mic now, but I find, like, when I'm using my phone, I find out I still talk through the mic. I'm like, why am I
I
talking to the
I'm
mic? The mic's
still
not working.
yeah.
Alina's like, yeah, I'm like, the mic's not working.
Hey guys. Hey. um oh man.
We're having too much
So
fun.
I know. It's at least we're able to laugh about all of the all of this crazy business, right? uh so anyway, but yeah, so one thing that that I thought was really effective in that cross-examination that started to come out was the question of the warrant out for his arrest, right?
Mhm.
And on cross-examination, Mr. T, Earl Grey, he asked the mom if she knew about any warrants out for his arrest. And he, oh, I think we have, here we go. Add to stream.
Hey,
All right.
Good luck,
Hey,
man.
how are you guys?
We're all right.
Good,
We're all
how are
right.
you?
Are you driving on a cell phone?
You know what? I am driving.
an echo.
I was listening to you guys. and you were dying. You're dying. And I was like, I gotta come in there. I gotta jump in there. These
Or
guys.
Epsteining.
Yes. Yeah. This was. Yes, it was like Hillary was all over you guys or something. I don't know what's going on. So, yeah, I'm gonna pull over in like 60 seconds. So, what's going on? I heard you guys talking about a sympathetic witness. I assumed you were talking about the Maxwell trial. Was that it, or was I misunderstanding what you guys were talking about there?
We were talking about the Potter trial, actually. The mom yesterday in the Potter trial, she was a very sympathetic witness, but there was a question about the warrant that was out for his arrest, for Daunte Wright's arrest, and the mom said that she didn't know of any warrant, but her answer seemed a little bit sketchy. And then today I saw that the girlfriend was on trial this morning, or not on trial, put on the stand as a witness. And so she testified that she was in the car with Daunte when everything happened, and they were FaceTiming with his mom. And at one point during the call, while they were kind of waiting for the cops to come back after they were processing stuff, the mom asked, "Do you have any warrants out for your arrest?" So that's more information that is going to be coming in. Yeah, that's kind of defeating mom's credibility there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I share the part of it where they asked about it. It's wild. It's wild. It's a wild case. It's at first I was thinking guilty, but now I'm like I don't see how they find this woman guilty, because it seems to be a tragic accident, and accidents are tragic, yes, but usually we don't accidents aren't criminal liability. There's no criminal liability back if this is found to be an accident.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
Yeah.
Right.
And also, so we do have a super chat. Nate, I think before you go, I think you probably are going to have some more nuanced information on this. Dapper Dave 2021 asks, would you guys have any issues if the officer Lucky had said you have a warrant for your arrest once the second cuff was on, right? So he was fully handcuffed.
Well, to be honest with you, a lot of officers like to do this whole, let me tell you before I'm arrested you what you do, but generally I like to put the handcuffs on and we can talk about it later, right? Because the number one thing is for me to get you in handcuffs. So that's what all right. I hate second guessing officers, especially after the situation happened and went bad.
Did I freeze?
You're freezing, yeah, you froze.
I froze.
But the two things that should have happened in that case is that when she went to the car, when he went to the car, the first thing he's supposed to do is when he tasks him to get out the car, let's go to the back. So he gets out the car and then you close the door, right? And then he's supposed to be in between. You're supposed to be in between the door and your partner. So your partner should be on one side. I'm on the other side. We both grab his arms and we explain you're under arrest for blah, 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 blah. That is what's supposed to happen. But I'm thinking he's a rookie cop. He's being trained and he just jumps up there and pulls him out. It's like, oh, you're going under. That's it's bad tactics. And then what happens is, as soon as the guy's like, what? He's like, you're going under arrest. He gets the one click and then the guys jump back into the car. That's what I'm talking about. Bad tactics lead to these bad incidents. So, the cops do have some responsibility, but the reason why they tell you don't resist arrest is because it's dangerous. Resisting arrest can lead to people getting killed. And a lot of these cases we see, no matter what you say, George Floyd, resisting arrest, right? He got killed. Wrongfully, but he got killed. Gardner in New York. This one here, when you resist arrest, bad things can happen. And I'd rather survive. Think about it. He went go to jail for 24 hours and survive off a stupid little warrant. Then now he's dead, and and everybody's life has changed. So it doesn't make any sense. But as long as people keep resisting, then we're going to continue to get this content.
Yep. True.
Sadly, the culture is to encourage people to stand up to police, and the whole all cops are bad culture. It basically makes them feel as if I think there's a certain emboldening of the youth in particular, and the thought that especially if you're a white cop and you're dealing with a minority suspect, you're. I think that if you are a minority suspect, you know that the white cop is gonna be really gun shy because of the fact he or she wouldn't want their face splashed across national media attention as being another racist cop, and therefore I think that it's almost encouraging resistance of arrest because they feel like, you know what, you're not going to shoot me. You don't want to have that. So it's almost like they feel like it's a shield that's protecting them from any type of actual physical harm because they know that the culture in America today is to basically devastate any cop any cop of almost any stripe who harms a minority. So
and don't get me wrong. I don't want to make it seem like, you know, all police are good or, you know, there's never any problems or anything like that. I do understand. Yes, there are problems, and some of these cases are examples of it. But the reason why, and I think what Joe said is right on point. The reason why this kid in this kid Potter case wasn't stopped for no reason, right? He was stopped because he got no insurance, expired, no license, no insurance. The plates are bad, weed smell in the car, and he's got warrants, right? If you want police to do a job, this is who you want them to stop, right? This is the person you want them to stop, right? No doubt about it. But like Joe said, now I think people are starting to get emboldened to think resisting is the way to go. Look at the way BLM is now backing Jussie Smollett.
Whenever you're freezing, Alita, I think all of us freeze.
No. You guys are freezing separately. I'm looking at the stream. Like you're freezing because you're on the phone. Alita's freezing because she's on the phone, and I'm just, you know, I'm taking
it's like a live stream from hell.
Alita.
Yeah, so I see you freezing, and I see Alisa freezing, and I'm just speaking to the wind here.
And soon you're gonna be gone. It's gonna basically like be Dr. and Mrs. Freeze over here. All right.
Yep.
But one thing,
no.
but I think what Joe says, I think what you're saying about encouraging resistance to police is because look at what BLM is saying about Jussie Smollett. After all the evidence, right? The fact that he hired other black men to put a noose around his neck and say it was white guys, right? That whole thing, right? Straight up lie, right? MAGA country, that lie, right? That whole thing. They're saying they back Jussie Smollett because they don't believe the police. What? What about the two black brothers that he's trying to railroad? You don't believe them, right? Like this is like it's starting to get ridiculous, and that's what I'm thinking. And it's sad the world we live in today because it's just a whole bunch of BS contradictions.
Amen.
So what's going on with the Maxwell trial? Did you ever get into it? What's up, man?
Yes, today nothing happened actually. We adjourned early today. Yeah, okay, you come in with your yes 10 seconds after. So she's so far behind. It's like she's 5. This is a real irony because she's 6 hours ahead of us and 20 seconds behind us. This is a paradox.
Joe, your camera right now looks like we're looking at a UFO video right now. I think
really?
I see it.
It does.
That's a shame. I look really good today.
It looks like Kyle Rittenhouse pointing his gun at the Zeminskis.
Fine. You know what? I'm a mile away from my studio. I'll drive there while I'm talking to you guys. And if something happens with the police along the way, I'm blaming you totally. I'm gonna be like, look, I'm on this.
Just turn off.
I'm in the show. It says you're in the show.
Yeah, but just turn off. Don't just turn off the camera. Yeah.
All right, I'll turn off my camera.
Right now it's like a blob of lawyer. There it is.
Yeah, there you go.
Did somebody put a picture of a monster up? Oh no, that's
So okay, so I'm gonna be transitioning over to my home studio. So in just
good luck
a few
with that
moments.
surgery.
Well,
you said you're transitioning over, so I'm like, oh, good luck.
It took me a second. Yeah, so Gislaine Maxwell. So the trial wrapped up early today because a lawyer was sick, and the judge came out and said, well, we're done. Let's go home. There was actually one witness who came forward from FedEx to confirm information about the Jeffrey Epstein FedEx account. And this was designed to corroborate the testimony of Carolyn, and that had already been orally corroborated by her ex-boyfriend. And Baby daddy? Is that the term for ex-boyfriend who you had a kid with? Is it baby daddy? Am I using that
Yeah,
right?
that's baby
That's
daddy.
the
Yes, yes,
that's the
yes,
word you kids say today.
yes,
So
yes.
Yeah.
I'm a baby daddy.
okay. So yeah, so her baby daddy came in and testified also about this FedEx package, this monumental element of the case when it's like such an incidental element to her whole story that I don't know why it is that we bother bringing in a FedEx, I don't know, courier, someone. I wasn't even there for this. It was like 10 minutes of testimony where they sealed and didn't let anyone see the account. But the point was to corroborate that Jeffrey Epstein sent her Victoria's Secret lingerie via FedEx. So, okay, all right, yeah. How does that tie into Ghislaine Maxwell? I don't know. If he never sent her any lingerie, would that mean that is that changing anything? I mean, I guess it means that she was. It's corroborating, I guess, that she had some sort of romantic entanglement with him. I guess it's doing that.
Yeah, I
She
suppose
had
so.
some sort of
Yeah.
sexual engagement with him that he's looking at her in a sexual way at a point in time when she's. So
No.
I guess it does do that. She was the youngest one out of all of them. Of all the people who spoke, Carolyn claims to have been either 13 or 14 when she first encountered. It's probably 14. She was 14. She actually said at one point that it was 13, but she's easily confused. Let me catch you guys up on what's really been happening.
Well, hold on, Joe. I just put my driving glasses on because I gotta
Whoa!
go pick up children
I
right
am
now.
liking it.
Yeah,
Man, we just need some bling. We need some bling.
I gotta get my
Nice.
hat. That's what I'm doing.
Are those new?
No. These are those the ones you get from Walmart.
You look badass. It's working. It's working.
I gotta go pick up my babies. I got the baby daddy. But listen, thank you guys for joining me. I'll be back in probably like a half an hour, 45 minutes if you guys are still struggling on here.
Yeah. Thank you for carrying this live stream so far.
Hey, you know what it is. MAGA country!
MAGA! Ciao. He's great.
Alrighty. All right. Yeah, I know.
Right.
No, he's been literally carrying this live stream since I've been dealing with my tech issues live for the past hour plus now.
Now I'm feeling stressed. Like it's my role to do that, and I got to live up to the standards that he's at. So, all right.
No. You have no standards to live up to. I just am now. I'm now alone and afraid.
All right. Well, if there's no standards for me to live up to, I should be just fine. I should meet that yardstick. Now, what do you want me to start? Where do you want me to start? Tell me where you want from me, Legal.
Okay. All right.
Alita, tell me what you want.
So, all right. So let's go over.
Oh, you're frozen.
The last couple days.
Frozen.
Am I frozen?
Someone's frozen. This isn't good. All right.
Maybe we're both frozen.
I'm going to give you guys some updates here while she's doing her thing. I will share with you that this trial is going. Hey, welcome back. So I'm going to share with you going far better than most people realize for the prosecution. If you're rooting for a conviction for Gislaine Maxwell, it means you have a soul, and it also means that you probably are very frustrated by the complete and utter lack of information that you're getting as to what's happening in this trial. Because seriously, there's not a single lawyer in the country who is actually watching this thing aside from me and the prosecution and defense teams, because I don't know, there's no coverage. So what I'll tell you is this. What people have been doing is they've been following transcripts, or they've been following inner city press, and he's amazing at typing out actual quotes from what's happening in the trial in real time and tweeting that out. Even inner city press, though, he picks moments that he thinks are relevant, and many of them are, but he misses some that are highly relevant. And to me, like, there was a moment yesterday that there was a bombshell that he didn't even cover. And I don't really read all of his stuff, but I'll watch a lot of what Robert Gruller covers, and he seems to like go through his tweets. And I was like, holy hell, how did he miss this moment during the cross-examination, which was really significant for the prosecution? And this is on the cross-examination of what's his name? David Rogers, the second pilot for that took the stand. Are you still there? Are you able to hear me? I feel like I'm talking to
Yes.
myself. I feel like I'm talking to myself here.
Yes.
I am.
No,
Okay, good.
I'm letting you. I'm letting you go with it. But I guess I should probably show some signs of life, right?
Yeah, okay, exactly. If only because I'm worried that, like, I don't know, Interpol is there. Like, that's why you're having all sorts of issues. So okay, so do you want me to talk about from the beginning where we're at? Tell me how you want me to address this.
Let's
Give me
do.
some sort of direction.
So let's see. Let's start with that second pilot for
Okay.
what he was talking, because that was some pretty dramatic testimony, right? Or was this yeah, let's start with the second pilot.
Okay, we'll work. So the second pilot testified yesterday. So we'll sort of work it a little bit backwards here. Now,
yeah,
what was interesting is that he seemed to take his own flight logs and his flight logs, he named names. And so they get him up on the stand, and he starts describing how he started working for Epstein in 1991 and worked for him for 28 years, first as a captain and then later as a co-captain. And what's interesting is the first pilot who testified, his name is Larry Visosky, testified on day one. And he started as a co-captain and later became captain. And it's like they switched with each other. They never really explained what happened there, that it seems like David Rogers got a demotion and and everyone was happy with the arrangement, apparently. But yeah, so he worked for 28 years. First question out of the gate is the same question that was asked of Visosky. What is Maxwell's role in the whole empire of Epstein? And same answer, she was the number 2 person. Well, who's the number 1 person? Jeffrey Epstein. So it's Jeffrey Epstein, and right below him is Ghislaine. And then they start talking basically, and look, most of the testimony really has been fixated far more on Epstein than on Ghislaine, which from a legal perspective is a little bit disconcerting because
it's a problem.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we're not trying to get a conviction on Epstein. But so when he comes in there, he's testifying, and he produces these flight logs. Now, when they come out with these, when they air different things to the jury than what they show to the public. And when they say the public, it really means 100 of us who are watching the trial, because there's no one else who's watching the trial. But I guess it becomes a public record also. It becomes a public record. So they'll show us what they're planning on putting in the public record, and we don't get to see anything beyond that. And so they brought up on screen there the evidence that they were sharing, and ours was redacted. The jury's is presumably not redacted. And he has dates, locations from to of flight numbers, and who was on the plane. And the way he marked it was he would initial people who were regulars, like JE for Epstein and GM for Maxwell. And then he would take down names of any other people on these flights. And right away, you see that the prosecution, when they were redacting, they literally took a big black box and covered up every person named on any flight. So it's just on that whole section, that whole column, there's just a big black screen there. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. We can't see any names on any flights at all. And sure enough, the judge, he was brought up like 40 minutes before the lunch break. And when they went to lunch break, the judge started asking the prosecutor why it is that all those names are redacted. She's like, I don't understand why does you redact all the names. She said, well, we want to protect the privacy of the victims. And she said, that doesn't really answer my question. Why are you making a big black box? You could have just redacted all, those names. That's what you redact, not the names of anyone on every flight. And we've been under pressure with the trial, and we just thought that it would be easier this way. And the judge says, well, I think this is an over-redaction. I want that modified and have only redact out the victims' names. Now, let me tell you this. this is Maureen Comey. She's running the district attorney's office there. She has probably 100 staff people under her. You can get any paralegal to go through the names, and you basically you say anytime you see names A, B, C, or D, make a big black marker across this copy, and that's the redacted version. You don't have, and they could do it in 40 minutes, an hour. Any idiot could do it. But no, they wanted to do, and it doesn't have to be someone who's working on the case. You can get some secretary to do it, and she'll be just fine at doing it. It's really not that hard. But
Yeah.
they, and that's what told me that Barnes' suspicion about protecting the political elite is really the DA's office seems to have a vested interest in making sure that the public doesn't see any of these names, in particular the names that went down to the Virgin Islands, because they always call this the Lolita Express, and it's really not a fair.
Yep.
It's not a fair description, because he's using these planes to fly to very innocent places, like from Palm Beach to New Jersey or to Ohio, which he doesn't. And a lot of people could have been using these flights for completely innocuous bases because they're friends with Epstein, because he is, part of the elite social circle. And for example, everyone talks about how Donald Trump's name has been thrown around. I will clarify for your audience that there has been no innuendo at all that Trump had the slightest involvement with any of the illicit conduct that Epstein has become notorious for. And quite the contrary, the one flight that he was listed on went from Palm Beach, Florida to New Jersey, which
So it didn't go to the island.
Right. And the key thing is who's going to the Virgin Islands, because the way they would do is they would fly into the Virgin Islands, and from there they would pop on a helicopter to go over to Little St. James or Little St. Jeffrey. They call it both. So yeah, the people who went to the Virgin Islands, you want to scrutinize them? Okay, fine. I personally, on that score, say if someone went to those islands once, that really could have been like a sightseeing tour, because that island is a spectacle. So if someone went there once, It's very possible. It's not like it's 24/7 men and women engaging in all forms of coitus imaginable. It's something to behold, to see what he built there. So I can understand someone going there once. But anyone who went there more than once, they're going there to use the facilities as intended. So that's how
it's a fool me once, fool me twice kind of situation.
Exactly. Not even really fool me once. It's more like you don't go sightseeing at the World Trade Center twice. You go there once, right? If you go to the World Trade, that's a bad example. There's no more World Trade Center, but I'm showing you how old I am, how long I've been living in New York. But you don't go, if you're just a tourist, you don't see this. You know what? Most people are not going to the Statue of Liberty twice. You go there once, and that's it. And if you're going there twice, well, there's other reasons besides sightseeing that you're going there. So that's my point. Now,
you know what's weird? Now,
what?
So now my internet seems stable on my computer, and I can see on StreamYard. I can see myself perfectly clear, but for some reason, I'm a completely black screen now.
Huh.
I am going to stop my camera then.
All right, fine. And I'm about to what I was going to do is I was actually going to transition over and go on camera.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the channel over, but give me like 30 seconds to do that. Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I'll be right back.
Okay. So this has been very, very interesting to hear it's been very interesting to hear some of this interesting stuff, right? If I can be a little bit more eloquent, I guess. So, but that's an interesting point that a lot of people have been jumping on this idea that Donald Trump has been on the quote unquote Lolita Express, but there hasn't been any sort of real insinuation as to whether or not he was actually going to the island, and that seems to be where all the funny business is, or at least that's what the implication is, right? So without him actually going to the island, who knows? but there has to be actual factual evidence that is put forward in order to show that someone has done something wrong, right? So, and at the same time, even if somebody goes to the island once, there is always a possibility. Like that does sound like a pretty reasonable thing to say, is that there's a possibility that somebody isn't fully informed as to what's going on, or at least even if they have a suspicion, that's not their intent. But then when somebody's going multiple times, that's something that could be an indication of they understand what's going on, and that's probably why they're going there. So yeah, anyhow, but it's an interesting thing that's happened. And I know that I've talked about it before. The one that's the most interesting to me, I keep talking about it because it's just so strange, is seeing John Glenn on the list of people that have flown with Epstein, because he was somebody that was so he had such a reputation for being such a Boy Scout, and not the kind of Boy Scout that is a subject of the litigation that may have caused the Boy Scouts of America to go bankrupt, but rather normal Boy Scout. And he's back. Hey, there you are. All right,
Hey.
let's see if maybe I can. Do you see me now or no? No.
This is a commercial for Verizon's competitor. There you are.
Okay. So
right.
I'm not just a black screen anymore?
Nope. You're there in the flesh now.
All right. Let's see.
At least on my end. I can't speak for the public
chat will. Oh, okay. Yep. I'm grainy though, but at least I'm there.
You're barely grainy. People see the blonde hair. That's really why they're here. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's fair. It's not for the legal analysis. It's for the long hair.
It's great hair. I mean, don't
Thank
take
you.
me. Don't. It's genuinely great hair. If I could grow my hair like that, I strongly consider it. So.
You would consider growing it to be elfin long?
Yes. That's right. I'd be like, like Runkle is, they call me like, what was that with Legalbytes? That was great.
Yes. They would call you, I don't know. I don't know what they would call you.
All right, so let's get back to work.
Yes. So as you were saying.
So I was talking to you about the testimony that was missed by a lot of people that came from David Rogers. That was I felt was highly significant. So David Rogers, this has been a major theory of the prosecution. And because you have to understand that on these flight logs, there basically are 2 times that we see Jane's real name. Jane was the first complaining victim to testify. She went on the first full day of testimony, and she told her story. And inside her story, where she really pins Ghislaine probably best out of anyone who has a colorable claim. So she tells her story as how she first met Ghislaine, and Ghislaine introduced her to Epstein, and that Ghislaine was basically the older sister role in the house there, and how she kept taking all these different steps to make her feel comfortable in dealing with sexual type issues, and walking around topless and joking with her around about boys and their weenies, which is disturbing to hear that a 30-year-old talking to a 14-year-old and just using that term. It's almost like she's like trying to pretend like she herself is a little girl, and just trying to normalize all this while promising how they're going to get her into all these great schools, and they're going to be a great connection for her for her future. And Jane, you should realize, was and still is a very attractive woman, and as a young girl, she was a very pretty girl. So, and she came from a troubled background. All your classic signs of someone who's ripe for abuse and would be a prime target for a Jeffrey Epstein type. And how Ghislaine was very instrumental in developing a personal relationship with her, and then literally coming in and being part of a threesome, like her first real true encounter where she's actually physically touching other humans rather than propped up on his lap and not really touching Epstein. While he was the first incident of her life, she describes it as she's not really touching any sexual parts, but that Epstein was self-involved, basically pulled her across his lap, not like straddling his lap, and he basically was self-involved, and that's like the first time she had ever laid eyes on a man's material. And she was like 14 or 15 at the time. I don't remember offhand, but that and then a few weeks later and how grossed out she was by it. A few weeks later, how she was basically brought into this room and they're all joking, and that Ghislaine and Jeffrey started basically losing all their clothing and touching each other while giggling until they encouraged her to join in with them. And so here you have Ghislaine really taking a very active role in drawing Jane into this web. And that's what you're looking for with respect to convicting her.
Right, because you need something to show that Ghislaine was actually actively involved in this, that she was some sort of a link between Epstein and these girls, that she was doing something to turn it into a common act.
Right. In fact, they actually had a doctor up there who played a pivotal role. She testified the day or two after Jane's cross was concluded, and she laid out the process of grooming and how that works. She's a psychologist who was laying out how grooming works, and everything that Jane had said really checked off these different boxes as far as there's 5 steps, and the first step is you want to find the right target. And the second step is you want to isolate them and basically create a public appearance as to why it's natural and normal for you to be investing a great deal of time one-on-one with this person, which is why. And she started describing like a coach, a teacher, someone who's got some sort of regular role dealing with individuals, which ties into Jeffrey Epstein sponsoring this Interlochen School for the Gifted in Michigan that he donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to. In fact, they actually they built a lodge called the Jeffrey Epstein Lodge, where guests would stay in case you're ever interested in staying in the Jeffrey Epstein Lodge. That's an unfortunate name choice right there, but
it is.
Yeah, I think they changed the name. I'm pretty sure they changed the name.
I would hope so, yes. At least by now.
So, yeah, and that he was staying at the lodge when he first came across Jane. Again, Jane is a pseudonym. Now, how does this tie into yesterday's testimony? So, part of Jane's story is that she's talking about how she became more and more entangled in this. So she was basically brought from Palm Beach, Florida, to New York. And another time she was brought to New Mexico, where he has Zorro Ranch. And that in each of these locations in New York and then in New Mexico, she was basically given more and more Epstein treatment. And just to give a general idea as to what Epstein treatment really means, it means a legitimate massage for like the first 40 minutes that the girl gives him. And then he rolls over and the fun begins. So he's laying on his stomach and there's like 45 minutes of like rub down before he rolls over and goes to town. Now, different girls have told different things with respect to whether or not he literally penetrates, or whether he's engaged in touching them and himself at the same time. It really depends on which girl is telling their story.
And he may have different preferences with different people.
That's true. That's true.
Possibility.
That's true. And he certainly had an eye for attractive women. I mean, this girl, Jane, she goes on to be a soap opera star for the next 22 years. You don't land 22 years as a soap opera star unless you're pretty attractive. Then another one, the next one, Kate, became an international supermodel. I mean, and those are the ones he tries to maintain longer relationships with. And that's one of the things that at least came clear to me that the ones that the prettier they are, the longer he wants to hold on to them. The ones who are perhaps not as traditionally overwhelmingly beautiful, like just eye-popping beautiful. So those he'll dismiss once they see and just move along from them
Once they have
once
an
they get older.
expiration date.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, that's what Carolyn, the third victim, testified about. Said that she became too old for him when she turned 18. Now we'll talk about Carolyn's testimony in a bit. Her story, in certain ways, is far more horrific than the first two who we're talking about. But she seems very different when she takes the stand, because these other two, models who are taking the stand, at least to my eyes, and I would imagine that my eyes are not very different from the jury, because they're so successful, because they're so beautiful, they're harder to relate to as being damaged, because anyone who looks at them would be enviable of the life they've had since leaving Epstein.
So kind of like a Weinstein victim sort of situation, where it's like, yes, you were victimized by Weinstein, but then you went on to win an Academy Award.
Yeah, but now you're
kind of
Megan
thing.
Fox, so like, okay, I'm not saying Megan Fox had Weinstein. I'm just saying my point is you have a career like Megan Fox, and everyone wishes
let's say
they
Jennifer
were you.
Lawrence. Let's
Whatever.
say Jennifer Lawrence.
Right.
She's more of a down home kind of beauty sort of, so to speak, but she apparently is one that had
She was a victim. Oh, she was a victim of Weinstein. Okay,
yes.
yeah.
I think so.
So
Or Salma Hayek.
So right, how many girls in the country wouldn't trade places with Jennifer Lawrence? And that's why if a jury's looking at them and saying, like, okay, look, it sucks you went through that, but boo-hoo you, look at your life. So it's not something that draws sympathy. When you hear Carolyn's story, however, I mean, she comes out, she's not dressed nearly as sharply as the first two. She looks like she's in her early 30s, and she looks like she's older than me. And like life has destroyed her, and she's not as physically fit as they are, and she's also intellectually a lot slower. Like, I don't want to mischaracterize and say Forrest Gump type of level intellect, but probably like not 20 points higher than him. So she's much more sympathetic.
Yeah.
And and her confusion on the stand, to my mind, even makes her that much more sympathetic. And like as I said, I'll get to her soon, because I'm focused here on the testimony of Rogers, which really relates to Jane. So he testified yesterday. So I'll come to Carolyn after we finish talking about Rogers.
Yeah.
So when Rogers taking the stand, so he puts up his flight logs. It's all redacted. We don't see it, but the jury does. And Maureen Comey, who's conducting direct examination, she's laying out and talking to him about all these different flights, when they were, from where, to where, and who was on the plane. And we need to fixate on dates here, because the age of the victims and when they're crossing international or state lines for the purposes of being trafficked sexually, this is critical in determining the guilt that would be associated with Epstein and ultimately, hopefully, Ghislaine.
Yeah.
So you need to know, we need to sort of have some sort of clue about their ages. What we could glean from testimony from Jane is that she was born in the summer of 1980. So that being said, the key flights that became a real question, there's two times that her name in full. There's two times that and obviously we're dealing with a pseudonym here, but let's imagine that her name really was Jane. Her name was really Jane Smith. Okay. So apparently there's 4 times that the name Jane shows up in his flight logs. The first 2 times, the earlier times, it just says the word Jane, no Smith. The second 2 times it says Jane Smith. Okay. Now her name is not Jane Smith, obviously, but the point is, so now we're saying, oh, okay, we know for sure that Jane Smith was on his flight at least twice. But those last 2 times when it says Jane Smith, she was already 18. So that's not going to be something that's convictable. The first 2 times, the first time there's any mention of a Jane at all is on November 11th, 1996. And the second one is on May 9th, 1997. Now, if you do the math, you realize quickly that she was actually six. That assuming it's this Jane, assuming that when it says just Jane, doesn't say Jane Smith. When it says Jane, that it's actually talking about our Jane, our victim Jane Smith. She would have been 16 at the time of those flights, and that's a convictable offense. Now, the defense has been trying to put forward the claim that Jane that's referenced in these logbooks is a different Jane, not Jane Smith. It's Jane Martinez or whoever. Okay, so that's why that's been their whole thinking. Now, one of the claims that they made is, and they did this with the first pilot, they were asking, and it was the same individual for the defense. There's 4 different attorneys who are handling the defense. It's 2 women and 2 men. It was Christian Everdale who was handling the cross-examination of pilot number 1, and who was Larry Visosky on day 1, and he also handled the cross-examination of David Rogers yesterday. He was literally, his cross-examination was the exact same cross-examination, question by question by question, that I could I knew what his next question was going to be, because it was just going straight down the line. In fact, so much so, you'll get a kick out of this, Alita, so much so that in the middle of cross-examining David Rogers, and he does this sort of rapid fire type of thing, like a lot of litigators do, and it's tactically productive to just get the defendant, the witness, to just be saying yes, 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 yes. So he's like, so when you're flying, you're sitting in the cockpit, right? Yes. And when you're sitting in the cockpit, there's a divider between the front of the cabin and the back, right? Yes. And just get them just very tiny bits of information, starting with things that are obviously true, and then start moving towards things that are less and less obvious but probable. And this way you get this whole flow of quick question, yes, quick question, yes, quick question, yes.
This happened yesterday with Officer Lucky in the Kim Potter trial also.
Okay.
He ended up, just saying yes, 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 yes to everything, to the point that, like, he almost seemed like he was zoned out. Like he had like this 1,000-yard stare where he was just like, yes, yes, yes. And it seemed like he wasn't even necessarily all there. Anyway, continue.
Right. David Rogers was not like that at all, because whenever he would ask a question that was a little bit off, he'd be like, I'm not sure I'd characterize exactly like that. And, and so he really was both, I think, intelligent and locked in as to what he was testifying about. Like he said, and that airplane had a kitchen area in it, right? Yes. And in that kitchen area, they had a place for people to come get coffee. Is that right? And he'd say, I believe so. He's like, so if you ever wanted coffee, you would just go back into the kitchen area. Is that correct? He said, actually, we had a coffee area in the front cabin there. So no, I never went back there for that. The other guy was just yes, yes, yes. He was like, assessing like the question and not just randomly just going with the flow. And that ended up being a really important element on this whole Jane argument, because same questions he asked to Visosky, he asked to Rogers, and this your viewers may not be familiar with, is that he started going down this whole line as far as Jane. He said, now, when you mark these names in your book, so you take down the names only if you know them, correct? Yes. And if you didn't know their names, you said that you would refer to them as either one passenger or one PAX, or one female or one male. Is that correct? And he said, yes. So he said, and if you only knew their first name, you would just write down their first name. Is that correct? Yes. And when you would write down their names, so he said, now you've met a lot of people who work for Trump over the years. Isn't that correct? And he said, yeah. And you've probably met a lot of his assistants over the years. Is that correct? Yeah. So isn't it true that I think you must have met one of his assistants who has the same first name as Jane? Isn't that correct? So he paused for a second. He's like, yeah. And she's flown on the plane before, hasn't she? He said, yeah. So now when you were taking down the name here and you just wrote the word Jane, isn't it possible? And I said, your memory, he said, you don't remember flying these flights. The only way your memory is refreshed by looking at this book, right? He said, yeah. He said, and he thinks for a second, yeah. So he's like, so when you look at a name and you see Jane, isn't it possible that it wasn't Jane Smith, the victim, but it was the personal assistant Jane? And when this question was asked to Larry Visosky, he was like enthusiastically like, yeah, could be. And he seemed to really like Ghislaine. The feeling I got from Larry Visosky, the first pilot, was that he cut some sort of deal, said he's not going to be named for trafficking because he's directly trafficking, and in exchange for testifying, but he likes Ghislaine. So he's like, I'm going to give them truth. And when defense comes with a question that can help Ghislaine, I'm going to jump right in and be like, yep, that's totally true too. So this way he's complying with his requirement of testifying, and at the same time isn't hurting his friend.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because I could imagine that after however many years of working for them, he may have developed a friendship.
Yeah.
So that's difficult to go on the stand like that.
Right. So David Rogers, though, and so now when he's starting to flesh out this whole theory the prosecution is putting forward, that the Jane no last name entry is not Jane victim, Jane Smith, who we're calling Jane Smith the victim, but it's potentially Jane Martinez, the personal assistant. So this worked perfect with Larry Visosky, and in the beginning it worked with Rogers too. But then all of a sudden, like 30 seconds later, he goes, actually, it couldn't be Jane. It could not be Jane Martinez because I didn't meet her until 2003.
Boom.
And yes, I said,
boom, that's
oh! And like everyone in the room, I'm sitting there with 30 journalists, and we're all sitting nicely spaced apart because obviously, otherwise, if we don't sit nicely spaced apart, COVID is going to go raging through the universe. So, so we're doing our part. No one should question that. We're doing our part to save humanity. And
it also, COVID is also very respectful, so that when you're sitting down at a table and dining, it knows not to come down on you. But as soon as you get up from the table, you're no longer touching the safe
utensils, the safe utensils.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Then as soon as that happens, then boom, you're vulnerable.
The other great thing,
go to the bathroom. That's it.
The other great thing is that if you're wearing one of these hats, you don't have to worry about COVID coming out of you. That doesn't happen. Everyone says you're wearing one of these hats, you don't need to wear a mask because you cannot be transmitting. You clearly can't be transmitting COVID.
By the way, my dad loves your hat. My dad's a New Yorker. He's from New York, and I think it was during the Kyle Rittenhouse trial that he noticed that he was like, who is that Joe guy? He seems like a good guy. I like his hat.
I was thinking that I should come in here in an elf costume to blend in.
My brother has already claimed that niche.
A reindeer, a little reindeer thing. Or something?
You can do that. That's fine. That's thematic.
All right, cool.
It's seasonal.
So I'll be the only Jew ever who wore a reindeer costume. So. Where was I? Yeah, so that moment, I bark out, oh, and everyone else in the room, they're just like numb to what's happening.
Wait, did you actually like you vocalize that?
Yes. As soon as he said it, I had the same reaction you had to Gage Grosskreutz, where you're screaming, directed verdict. Only instead it was just, oh.
I'm surprised you didn't get kicked out of the courtroom for that.
Well, I wasn't in the jury. I'm not. They don't hear me. I'm in a viewing room. Okay. I'm in a viewing room with 30 people. I'm surrounded by just journalists.
Okay.
Our viewing room.
I was going to say that's a nice little cue for the jury.
Yes. Yeah. That would have been, and they would have thrown me out, and they would have asked to strike the O. Please strike Good Logic's O from the record. The record will reflect that Good Logic did not say O. What's funny though is that the way I just worded it did not say oh. I obviously didn't just say oh. I actually went oh, and there's a very big difference. But when a court reporter is taking it down, it just reads as OH. No one really. He's not going to write oh H. It's just going to be OH.
Exclamation!
They don't do that either.
That's the difference between reading a transcript and actually being there and seeing it yourself.
Yes. That's where I was going. You smelled where I was going, and that's exactly where I was going.
I'm picking up
you're locked in
the crumbs on the trail.
Yes, I'm dropping them, and you're perfect at this. You're perfect at this because what I want to reassure your viewers who are hoping for a conviction here is that the testimony that we've heard has been so much more lethal against Ghislaine than can possibly be expressed by reading a transcript. Because when you read a transcript, it's just words, 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 and you don't understand the tone or the emotion that's being expressed. It doesn't even say in parentheses, witness is crying now. So you don't know that. And that's why when you're reading it, there's no way a person reading a transcript. I'm sufficiently familiar because I'm a litigator. I do depositions, all the time. I'm looking at court transcripts and things like that. So I know, and if you have much litigation experience, you know that when you read a transcript, it's so lost and so different from what the jury is actually hearing. And this is one of the problems I have with with a frequent impeachment technique that has been used by the defense a lot. That they'll go back and they'll say, well, you're saying this, but you actually said at your deposition that. But a lot of times what they're reading from at the deposition, when you just read it coldly, it has one meaning, but when you read the words all together and you understand that perhaps the person doesn't speak English as their native tongue, like Juan Alessi, and his words are literally sometimes the cold reading of his words are literally the opposite of what he's clearly trying to convey. Right. He'll say literally the word no when he means yes for sure. So it's like, or yes when he means no. So it's like he'll be like, they'll ask him a question. A better example, really, I think a better one than Juan Alessi. I covered Juan Alessi before, but a better example is really what happened with Carolyn's testimony 2 nights ago. Because if you read the transcript for the redirect, and understand this, Carolyn, as I said, she was a broken woman. She was broken long before she became a woman. She was broken before she became even a kid in school. Because Carolyn's story starts when she's 4 years old. Probably starts before that because her mother was an alcoholic and a drug addict. There's no mention of her father at all. And when she's 4 years old, she sustains the worst form of abuse of physical abuse that a girl can sustain from her own grandfather, who basically decided to get his jollies from a 4-year-old. In fact, his own 4-year-old granddaughter. Yeah, that's the start of her life. That's a decade before she meets Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, This is what she's carrying. She drops out of school in 7th grade, and as I said, she's not the sharpest tack in the world. Okay, so when she's now, and she was introduced through Virginia Roberts. She was dating a guy named Sean. When she was 13, Sean is 17. Okay, and Sean, she said, I lied to Sean and told him I was 17. And how did he find out that you were lying? Well, he came to my birthday party. And what birthday party was that? My 14th birthday party. Well, that's how clever she is at deceiving, at being deceitful. That it's so innocently naive that she doesn't realize, oh my gosh, if I bring my 17-year-old boyfriend to my 14th birthday party, he might figure out I'm not 17. That's beyond her. That's how simple the obvious simple things are clearly beyond this. I mean, beyond her, even to this day. She goes through a whole story about, from the first incident she had meeting, and how Sean had a friend named Tony, and Tony had a friend named Virginia, and you guys all know her as Virginia Roberts. And Virginia Roberts comes to Carolyn and says, hey, you want to make some money? And she's like, sure, how? She said, all you got to do is just massage an old guy, and we make $300. She's like, great, let's go.
All you have to do. Even that for me would have been like, I'm sorry, what? But I grew up in a healthy environment, so that's different.
Exactly.
Yeah, Indy, she agrees. Indy's barking. She completely agrees with me.
Go, Indy. Okay, so, and when she's telling her story over about how she ends up going there the first time, and she couldn't, and she goes with Virginia, and the first 45 minutes are totally normal massage, except for the fact that Virginia, when she gets there, she's driven in by Tony and Sean. They drive her to Epstein's house. 2 girls get out, and when they get in there, Virginia's like, okay, so we need to take off our clothes now. And she's like, what? Now, how old is she now at this point? 13, 14, it's unclear, right? 13 or 14. She's like, I'm not doing that. So she ended up basically leaving herself in her underwear. Well, Virginia basically left herself with nothing. And then he comes in, lays down on, he said he brushes his teeth before he lays down on the table. These are the little details which help sell a story. When you say brushes his teeth, they're like, you can start picturing you start picturing the scene. We've seen pictures of the inside of his house in the massage room. You can actually picture him and the two girls there. Yeah. And he lays down. He said the first 45 minutes were rubbing his legs up to the buttocks, and then he rolls over. And what happened? What happened then? Oh, Virginia climbed on the table and started just
doing stuff,
rabbiting on top of him. And what did you do? I sat back and watched in horror as I saw, my friend basically doing that. And that's basically what she's describing. I like just sat back and watched the rest of the time, and she finished. And then he left $300 on by the sink for me. And how much did Virginia get? She didn't know. And then they left, and it was $300 bills that she got for that time there. We later learned that anytime she explains how, as she started coming back, as she was told that if you bring a friend, we'll give you an additional $300 for that friend. So
it's a multi-level marketing scheme.
Exactly. That's what they had going on there. They wanted her to go to her school, find classmates, and have them come.
It's the worst of all MLMs.
This is what it, and she started doing it. She started talking to her friends and getting them to come. And here's the thing. It wasn't just her. Sean, like, how'd they get in touch with you? Oh, they would call Sean or my mother. Like, this is the environment she's living in. Sean, her boyfriend, was literally pimping her. And that Sean, when he came and corroborated her story the next day, he actually explained, like, yeah, it wasn't just Sean. Did you go to that house many times? He would drive him there. He'd be like, yeah, they called me on the phone. Who would call? Well, there was 3 different people. Sometimes there was a woman named Sarah. Sometimes there was this woman who spoke with an English accent. And by English, I mean proper English. And sometimes there was a woman with a French accent. Did Carolyn ever talk to you, Sean, about Miss Maxwell? About Gislaine Maxwell? He said, well, she could never pronounce her first name, so she always called her Maxwell, which is exactly
same problem that we all have.
Yeah, it's exactly what Carolyn said. She's like, I could never pronounce her name, so I just called her Miss Maxwell. Which is, she's the only one who ever said that, and Sean described it that way. And he described the same 2 friends that came along also, same age as Carolyn. And that they also basically, and they're like, so Sean, how did you know those 2 girls? Oh, they were my girlfriends also. It's like he literally he was an older guy. He would date younger girls and treat them like he was a pimp. That's what he was.
Mini Epstein.
At 17, he wasn't. He was. I assume he was taking some of the money, but instead, and I don't know what he was doing with them physically. He ended up becoming a baby daddy to Carolyn, but yeah. So I mean, and then he ends up becoming a felon later in life, and then he gets thrown in jail, comes out, gets arrested for a felon in possession of a weapon, and spends 3 years, and now supposedly is living the straight and narrow life as a salesman. So why did I start telling you this? What was the context of me telling you this? It's because when she told her story, Carolyn, she spent an hour to an hour and a half telling her story. Do you know how long her cross-examination was?
4 hours.
Yep. Four and a half, just under 5 hours.
That's a long cross-examination.
Drilling. It was Jeff Paliuka, and he was not aggressive. His tone was not aggressive. He was just relentless. And anytime he would ask questions, going bit by bit of her story, and he'd be like, well, you said that Virginia, this is how nitpicky it was. Where did you say that you were when Virginia told you about this idea to go there? So she said, we were hanging out by the car. She said, but so it wasn't by a party that she told you that? Like, who cares where that happened? Does the jury care about that? No, but it's just, I want to show every inconsistency I can. And there's a lot of material he had to draw from. because
Yeah.
we find out that in 2008, 2009, she filed 2 different lawsuits. I assume one was in state, one was in federal, against Jeffrey Epstein and Sarah Kellen, and never named Ghislaine Maxwell. And the defense is jumping all over that. Why didn't you name Ghislaine Maxwell? Why is she guilty all of a sudden now? She also filed a complaint and a claim for the victims of from the victim of Jeffrey Epstein's claim fund, which had set aside tens of millions, if not more, for victims. And she took money from there also. But she had to tell her story multiple times. And there are little differences in the story. Even on the year, what year it was, there are differences. And when you have a sharp defense attorney, they're not going to let you get away with that. And they're drilling her about what year it was, how old was she, what year was it, how old were you, and over. But you told the FBI this, and in your complaint it says that, and in this, and in the other complaint it says something slightly different. The first engagement you said was in 2000. You said was in 2001, in May of 2001. In this claim fund, you said it was 2002. Now you're saying it's 2001 again, and like basically trying to show how her story has multiple inconsistencies and she's like, I don't remember. I don't know what was written there.
Yeah. If you look at it from kind of a human and psychological standpoint, this is something that is entirely possible, right? We're talking about something that happened how many, over 20 years ago, right?
Right.
Or somewhere around 20 years ago. And so, it's totally possible for your memory to change. And particularly if that something was pretty traumatic.
Right.
So that is all possible. But from a legal perspective, that is a huge issue, because anytime you have a single inconsistency in a story that is very important, especially something that's like, what year was it? How old were you? Like those are kind of big details.
Basics. They're basics.
For anyone to really remember and to keep in mind. So those are very big issues. And especially where you have a whole trail of them starting to line up, you have big problems with that person's credibility.
And now if you read the transcript, you'll basically hear this awful testimony from her in cross-examination. And sometimes she would say, like, she would give good answers that were like, they'd be like, well, why is it that in your complaint against Sarah Kellen, Ghislaine Maxwell was only mentioned once? You're saying that she was so involved in this or in that. She's not mentioned. She only mentioned once. She's like, they wouldn't be mentioned. It wasn't about her. This is about her. So he's like, so now that so then the defense is like, so now that she's being sued, your story is new, the brand new story. It's a different story because now it's like there's constantly trying to like show how she's shifting her story in order to basically come up with the new story du jour of what's in vogue that's going to help her out.
Yeah, whatever benefits her most in this particular moment. That's what I want to show.
Yeah. But the reality is, I'm looking at your thing here on my camera, okay? And now if someone starts asking me to describe this incident of that time that you went on Legalbytes show in December and started talking about the thing, I could say, yeah, I was talking to an attorney and we were talking about the Maxwell trial, and I could fixate on that, or I could say I was talking to this woman from Europe. You know what I'm saying? And about the Maxwell trial, because that's what the fixation. If I'm talking to a European, like, hey, any Europeans? So I'd be like, yeah, I was actually talking to a woman from Europe just earlier today. And I wouldn't even mention that you're an attorney. Does that mean you're not an attorney? No.
Or an American.
Or an American, whatever. But you understand what I'm saying. And that's a classic thing. That's a classic thing. I'd be like, she's in Europe. I guess she's European. And then the next time I tell the story, I'd be like, well, actually, I'm saying I've spoken to an American. And the story reads differently in the transcript. And it's very easy for a defense attorney to pick that out and say, well, why didn't you say that she was American? Well, because I was talking to a European press and they're asking me if I know anyone who's currently in Europe. So that's why I didn't mention she was American. So if I'm talking about the crimes of Sarah Kellen, I'm not going to describe what Gislaine Maxwell did. There might have been someone else who punched her in the face. Maybe one of the staff punched her in the face. She didn't mention that either because it wasn't relevant to that trial. She's only fixing on the facts that are relevant to that trial. Can she express it like that? Of course not. She's Carolyn.
And it could also be that she was asked certain questions by different people, by the
Right.
FBI versus,
Yes.
whoever else that she was making a report to, or, an attorney that's drafting a complaint. There could have been different questions. They could have been framed somewhat differently that may have influenced the kinds of answers that she gave. It's kind of like, like from the Rittenhouse trial, when Nathan DeBruin said, when Krause was asking him like, well, you didn't tell us this, you didn't tell us that. And he's like, I wasn't asked. Like,
Right.
no one asked me. That's not my job. That's the investigator's
Yeah, that's
job
your
to ask
job.
me
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's great. By the way, I'm on that short list. He's following like 9 people, and you and I are both on that list.
Woohoo! Yeah.
Nick Rekieta isn't.
Oh.
But
Oh,
you and I
no.
are. So
How
there
is that
you go.
possible? He even went on his channel.
I know. So there you go. So if you're watching me now, Nate, shout out to Photo
Yeah.
Chat.
Yeah.
And
shout out
also
to
you
Photo
guys
Chat.
in the audience. You really go buy his artwork. He does great work and he needs the support. So
Yeah.
Nathan
I know
DeBruin.
he's almost up to his 100% of his newer goal, because I think he expanded it because he realized that there was that much support out there for him, and he wants to. I think it seems like he wants to use that towards really changing his
Developing a
life and doing
business.
some things that he wants
Right.
to do, right? Specifically with that business. So if you guys, if you
And that's
guys
a
haven't
great
already,
example of, and I think it's artbynathan.com
Mhm.
is his website. Art by Nathan D as in DeBruin. So, or Detroit. So
yeah,
so he but that's a great example. You say, well, why first you say you need 30,000, now you need, I don't know, whatever, 100. Why, how's that change? Aren't you just like, no, it's like, okay, I didn't want to overwhelm the public. So at first I'm saying 30, but when I see that, I'm getting such great support, really, ideally, I would have said 100 initially, but that's a way a defense attorney will sort of pick up and say, you say your story's shifting here as to what your
Mhm.
needs are. It's
like you moved the goalpost over, just a bit
as
when
if
you
like,
started to see things changing, right?
yeah, but
That would be that
you could
tactic.
portray it in a way that looks very nefarious. You could portray it and for reality, which is the guy wants to be realistic and not say, hey, I'm looking for X number of dollars, which is going to blow people's minds and say, what are you kidding me? I'm not giving you that. We're not helping you raise that level of money. But
Yeah.
anyway.
And this is the Give, Send, Go link, by the way, guys.
Oh,
So,
great.
yeah.
Great. Yeah. No, anytime I can help promote that boy.
Absolutely.
I call him a boy because he's old enough to be like,
well,
he's
because you're
young enough to
Grandpa
be my
Joe.
son. Yeah, I am Grandpa Joe. So that boy. So
I can't do it because I feel like we're probably somewhere around the same age.
right. So right, it's coming more about the whole transcript thing. So she's buried there for 4.5 hours. But if you that's if you're reading the transcript. But when she's like, when you read the transcript, she also said this. It reads like this. He'd be like, so why is it that you said you weren't at a party and now you're saying now you said you're at a party, now you're saying you're not? And she'd be like, I don't know. Do you remember making this statement? No. I'll show you this document to refresh your recollection. She looks at it. She's like, yeah. So does it say there that you said that you were at a party? And she'd be like, I guess so. Why does this matter? How is this relevant? That's how it reads in the transcript. You don't hear her saying, why does this matter? How is this relevant? It just reads as, why does this matter? How is this relevant?
Mm-hmm.
And it just reads like she's being rude as opposed to you seeing the exasperation on her face,
right,
and confusion.
And
that changes it dramatically.
There are 2 points that makes me think of. So number one, this is why, like, anytime, if you watch a deposition or you watch trial and the person that's being deposed or the witness that's up that's giving testimony at trial, they're required to say yes or no. If they start shaking their head or nodding their head, nonverbal cues, they have to say yes or no so that they can get it on the record, because only things that are verbalized are put down on the record. And it's exactly what you're saying, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about that is that, obviously all of those nonverbal cues never get recorded. And
right.
that's why like there's an increasing use of video depositions as well. So people will take a transcript and they will film them on video, because sometimes if you get somebody that says, someone that's, asks, did you stop at the red light? And the person goes, yes. It's very different than just reading yes.
Right.
Because, you can see their wince, you can see their, their body language and everything. But
It'd be really
Imagine
funny if
being
the person
impeached by something like that.
Yes,
Instead
exactly.
of a transcript.
Exactly. It'd be really funny if they actually sit there and like, did you stop at the light? Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Or
Like,
even a very long pause where they kind of sit there, they kind of look around, they think
yeah,
about it, and they go, yes.
yeah,
You know,
exactly. But it
like
just
those are
reads as
all
when you read the transcript quickly, it's like, did you stop at the light? Yes. Did you like, and just sort of move on to the next question. You don't realize that that's not how the guy said it. And the real defining moment for me of this trial was after that 4.5 hours of cross of 3-minute redirect.
Mhm.
And on the transcript it reads as Comey just saying, um did you did you draft the complaint in 2008? No. Did you draft the complaint in 2009? No. Did you draft the interrogatories associated with that? No. Did you review the FBI statement before today? No. um did Jeffrey Epstein touch you when you were 15? Yes. Did Jeffrey Epstein, what year was that? I don't know. I don't know. Did he touch you when you were 14? Yes. What year was that? I don't know. Did he touch you when you were 13? Yes. What year was that? I don't know. I could try to look that up and figure that out. So that's very different from what the jury heard, which was
Mm.
her screaming and crying, and Maureen Comey yelling these questions at her to elicit that emotion from her. And it was, you couldn't help but like start tearing up because she was so frustrated with how she just got battered for 4.5 hours over relatively nitpicky stuff. And
Yeah.
and she's saying, and Maureen Comey is yelling, did you draft that complaint in 2008? And she's screaming, no. And did you draft that complaint in 2009? No. Did you ever see that FBI report before today? No. And it's totally, did he touch you when you were 15? And she's crying and screaming, yes. And then when she's asked, like, what year is that? And she's like, I don't know.
Oh my God. Wow. Yeah, that is different.
It's
That's a very dramatic Hollywood moment. That's like, I want the truth. You can't
yes,
handle the truth.
right, exactly. Exactly. And imagine that in a transcript. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. It's just not the same. It's not even remotely the same. And that's
No,
what I'm
not even
saying is,
close.
yeah, that's what I'm saying is whoever is reading a transcript is not getting a flavor for what the jury is seeing. And
Mm.
that's why I think, and I will tell you this, I first learned today, I'll break this here for you.
Ooh, yay.
I saw someone actually being interviewed who was sitting in the jury room and saying that they were watching that cross and he thought it was a terrible cross, and that the jury of Carolyn, and that the jury thought so. He said he counted 4 people who looked like furiously, like they were watching Pagliuca furiously, and one woman just constantly shaking her head as they felt that
Whoa.
she was being battered by, basically it's a new abuse that she's facing on the stand there from Pagliuca. So
Oh,
that's
there you
very
go.
encouraging. That's very encouraging. And if
For
that
the
was the
prosecution.
reaction to Cross, they probably broke down crying when they heard her at the end. So
Yes. Oh my God. See, that's again, like, we were talking about this earlier with sympathetic witnesses. You have to be very careful with how you cross-examine them, because
yeah,
you can have the jury just completely turn on you. Thank you. A Few Good Men in the chat. Somebody mentioned the movie name that I was quoting earlier,
right.
that we were quoting earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, because it's like, it's a very dangerous thing. If the jury is with you when you're steamrolling someone, it can be a
Yeah.
very powerful moment. But if they are not with you, you are digging your own grave.
Yeah, and that like I said in my I did a follow up right after that, because it was literally the last 3 minutes of testimony of the day, and I did a follow up, and I was saying this was the most dramatic, riveting testimony I've ever seen in my life, and you wouldn't expect. And until that moment, it was like, it's another day here at the Maxwell trial, and all of a sudden, like, you just felt the anguish and pain of these victims, and yeah, it was very very moving.
Oh
So.
my God.
But if you're just
Yeah,
reading a
no kidding.
transcript, it's seriously the most boring. It's like another denial, and she's even when she's denying, she's confused and saying she doesn't know what year it was. Like, how is that possibly helping testimony? Why would the prosecution keep pounding out how she doesn't even know what year it is? That's how you would read it. That's how anyone would read the transcript. But if you're actually watching it live, which the people who matter were, that was like just your jaw dropped open. So
Yeah. Yeah, and especially for it to end on that note for the day.
Yeah.
That is also very, very powerful because the jury's walking home and they're thinking, they're either very much with the with the defense or very much with the prosecution. And it sounds like they probably were very upset about how this witness was treated by the defense. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Even at
at
even
least several of them anyway.
Yeah. Even then, when she was asked, like, the last question was actually like, why are you here? Or no, the second last question was like, why did you come here? And she starts, screaming and crying about how Ghislaine Maxwell ruined her life. And there's no amount of money that can possibly fix that. And the terrible drama that the terrible things that happened to her. And how is it that people can get away with this? I mean, she was just rambling and so powerfully and dominating the room that Paliuko just called out objection, because anyone sitting at the defense table must have been feeling like, our case, we're done. We're
Yeah.
done. So it's like, oh my God, through a lifeline, he screams out objection.
Yeah,
And the judge,
try to interrupt it, interrupt
yes,
the flow.
interrupt this flow, which is just destroying us. And everyone was like, thinking probably, boo, like, we want to hear from her. But like,
Mhm.
Judge Nathan goes, I'm sorry, like, she sort of paused her, says, I'm sorry, you need to hold on a second. I need to hear this objection before I allow you to continue. And he looks over and she said, what's the objection? Said, there's a narrative. She needs to. So we're like, yeah, okay. Yes.
The jury's like, it's the narrative we want to hear.
Yeah, exactly. So she said, I'll sustain your objection, but I'll allow this statement to
Objection,
stand.
we're losing.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's perfect. Objection. This is lethal. Not fair. So
objection, Your Honor, homicide of my client.
Yeah.
It's legal homicide.
Objection. Yeah, you just wasted the last $2,000 my client spent on my last 4 hours of testimony. The last $4,000 she spent on me cross-examining here. Yeah. So, and then the last question is, do you stand to gain anything at all financially based on the outcome of this case? And she said no, and that was it. And you're just like, yeah, like, why is she lying? If she's anything's inaccurate here, it's not because she's trying to make money out of it. It's because she's Carolyn. That's really it is. And that's the best way to say it. She's Carolyn. And Carolyn just doesn't know what year it is. She might not know what year it is right now, but that doesn't mean that she's not living through all the things that she's living through.
Yeah.
So,
oh, that's so sad.
yeah.
That's really sad. I mean, especially because of, from what it sounds like, she has really been living through hell from, I
Yes.
mean, from
And again,
her early
she's not
life.
she's not Forrest Gump. It's not like that. I don't want to overstate it.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
but she's clearly easily confused, either because of genetics or drugs or time. For these factors, she's very confused. And even when things are happening around her, she doesn't seem to comprehend the relevance of the questions that she's being asked. She's just telling her story, and her story is gut-wrenching and heartbreaking. So
yeah.
uh
Oh my gosh. Well, that was yesterday, and now today.
that was 2 days ago. That was 2 days
2
ago.
days
Yes.
ago.
Yeah, that was
That's
2 days
right.
ago. Yesterday was
Woo.
David Rogers, and Sean came in to corroborate the story, and his corroboration was great. Everything he said, the little nuanced stuff that he said, was really, it was spot on with her story. And she has, look, let's face it, reality is, over the course of years, as shown on cross-examination, she's told stories that don't really match up perfectly. Even like, as to even how old she was, we know this. She was well shy of her 17th birthday when all this was happening to her.
Yeah.
And there's sufficient details there as far as even with some limited physical evidence, like phone message logs that show Carolyn calling in, presumably matching her phone number that she had, that have been brought in as evidence. With respect to the FedEx packages that they did today, that they brought in testimony, showed that a FedEx package had been delivered from New York under Epstein's account to her home at a time when she was 15, and both she and Sean said that she received a FedEx package that included lingerie and like a movie or whatever, and which is like a highly inappropriate thing to send to a 15-year-old. I mean, that's just for a 55-year-old man to be sending this to a 15-year-old. I mean, it's all corroborating that what she said on the stand. Look, all the different stories that she said, the one that matters is the one that she said before this jury. Can we corroborate that? And that's what they did a good job of doing.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, her distinctions are like, her mistakes between whether she was 13 or 14, that's all very far away from 18, right? So I can see this actually playing much more of a significant issue if she was 17, 18, 19, maybe, between those years, because that has very legal significance. But at that point, it's like, I'm wondering if maybe the jury is thinking, what difference does it make? She was 13 or 14. It's illegal either way, regardless of whether she remembers it one way or another. Is anybody arguing that she was older than 14 then?
Yeah. Is anyone saying she was 17? Is there anyone claiming that she was 17? Are you denying that this stuff happened?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm wondering if maybe that had something to do with the jurors that were supposedly like very upset about that, the intensity of that cross-examination, because they probably were like, who cares? Who cares if she got that wrong?
Crap? Yeah. Because who gives a crap whether it was Tony that was driving or Virginia that was driving? Which is like differences in her story. And that's literally the sort of stuff that he was like, well, why would you say it was Virginia? And now you're saying it's Tony. It's like, who gives a crap? Who cares? Really?
Yeah.
So
and that's something too that can be hard when you're one of the attorneys working on the case, because you're looking at all of these details and you're probably living it for so long that those differences matter to you as the attorney, because you're like, no, she said it wrong. She said it wrong one time or another time, and everyone needs to know this. And so
now we can't believe, and now no one will ever believe her. And that's where your mindset goes. Your mindset gets wrapped in the case where you believe in your case so much that you're like, well, obviously, if one time she said Tony was driving, another time she said Virginia was driving, and I point this out to the jury, they're going to be like, yes, her entire story is a sham. That's how you start thinking of things stupidly. You almost become blinded to it, and you step out from what the rest of the world is hearing and listening to and what's really of import to them, which is why when you're a litigator, you really need to bounce things off someone who's not steeped in the case and say, hey, is this significant or is this not? Am I too wrapped up in my own case? And I was trying to play off of that. I spoke with Bobby Sternheim yesterday. She's the lead defense counsel for Gislaine Maxwell. The defense has their own designated conference room that's on the 5th floor, which is the viewing floor that I'm most frequently on, right where I sit eating lunch on a bench there, and they're walking past me. Like Paliuka and Christian Everdale and Menninger. These are not names that most of your people know because you're not watching the trial. But these are names that, it's basically I'm saying to you, Mark Richards and Sheriff Feces walking past me. That's basically what's happening there. And so that's why I went over to Bobby, and I was like dying to get those names. I wanted these names made public. And after she said she's not going to, I was like, I'm pleading with you. I was like, if I asked her to put the names out there, why the hell would she listen to that? I need to motivate her. And I figured that what you just said, that defense counsel gets, and both sides get lost in their own world, that maybe this tiny little stupid factor will just turn the tide, and all of a sudden the jury is going to say, my client is the greatest human ever. So I was playing on that and saying, look, the whole 5 steps of grooming, one of them, step number 3 is lies and deceit. And you can show that your client was not engaged in lies and deceit, but they were just sharing their open lives if you're able to get up there and have the pilot on the stand confirm who he flew from these big names, from Clinton, from Trump, whoever. And this way, you're showing the jury it wasn't lies and deceit. She was just, that's what her life really is. So so it's not their fault. It's not Ghislaine's fault that they were overwhelmed. That's just who she's around. How do you prove that? By having the pilot testify about all these big names, who he flew them, when and where. Now, my pure 100% motivation is I want that stuff public. I want that public to the world.
Right.
Do I think that them telling that to the jury will make the jury all of a sudden say, yeah, that's true, Clinton flew on that plane 15 times. I guess Ghislaine didn't really groom them. What are you kidding me? Ghislaine's sitting there saying, wee hee hee, it's so fun, let's take off our clothes. That she's totally innocent because Clinton flew on Epstein's plane. What? Only someone who's wrapped in a case would think like that.
Yeah.
And I was trying to play on that. And when I said it to her, she's like, wow, it's an interesting idea. I'm gonna mention that to my co-counsel. So I was like, wow, you know what? Maybe we'll get names.
Or
really
she's
cool.
like, or not.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Then she turned away, walked away from me, and she's like, jackass. That's basically what happened. Yeah. She's like, F you, jackass. Yeah, I'm sharing with you the dialogue we had, but it must be that in her brain she was thinking that, because like I said, at the end of the day, not only did he not explore it in detail, he completely cut that whole line of questioning out of what he asked Visosky. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, hey, can't say you didn't try.
I'll tell you, some people were really mad. They're like, why are you giving advice to Bobby Sternheim? You're defending a sexual predator. You're a jerk. I'm unsubbing you. I'm like, really? Is this sweet? That's your takeaway? That's your takeaway from all this? Really?
No, it's about putting, getting facts out there that are relevant, right?
That we all want to know. We all want to know exactly who flew, when, and where. I want to know about these trips to the Virgin Islands. That's what I really want to know. And I want these people exposed. And the prosecution's not doing it. They're never going to do it. So,
yeah, that's an unfortunate aspect of it, but so now the mysterious stories. There's a mysterious illness of one of the prosecutors. And do you have any details on that?
No. I asked around. I said, did they even name which attorney it was, which side of the aisle it was? You're saying it's a prosecutor. I didn't even know it was a prosecutor. So, no one that I spoke to had any clue at all as to what this whole thing was about. Why it is that there was we know there's a sickness of one attorney, but that's all the judge said. So whether it's prosecutor, whether it's defense, they said it's not COVID. So,
okay. All right.
Which is, I guess, a relief that we don't have to sit there worrying that, oh my God, we're going to have the extended thing that you were in contact with him and with her, and now the whole prosecution is gone for the next week and a half, and we'll see you in January. So.
Yeah, that would be a terrible interruption. So hopefully it's just like a one day thing, like a migraine or something that just kind of came on and debilitated them, and then they'll be back tomorrow. Well, tomorrow, right? There's still a
so the schedule. Yes, the schedule is we're supposed to be in court tomorrow. They were hoping they were going to wrap up everything by tomorrow. I'm actually very upset by this delay because I have to close up at noon. I mean, I can't at lunchtime tomorrow. I got to leave, and I'm going to be missing much of the cross of Annie Farmer, which is now, this sucks. I only realize it now while I'm talking to you. I'm going to miss all that cross. I'm assuming that they'll get her direct testimony out before lunchtime. But I am positive they're not going to finish up with it. They might get to start the cross, but we're shut down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday because the judge has a conflict. Then we're back in court on Thursday, Friday next week. Then on the following week, we start dealing with Christmas at the end of the week. Yeah. So our schedule basically is this. Friday, I'll pull up a calendar and I'll tell you what our schedule looks like. So tomorrow is the 10th. We're going to be in court tomorrow. Then we are off on the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. We're back in court. So we're in court on the 10th. Then we're back in court on the 16th. We're back in court on the 17th. Then you have a weekend of 18th and 19th. Then we have 3 days on the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that will be in court. Then there's Christmas vacation. Same thing for the following week. So on the week that starts with December 26th, which is Sunday, we'll be in court the 27th, 28th, and 29th. And then we close for New Year's. We're closed on the 30th, closed on the 31st. And we would, in theory, come back, I guess, on the 3rd, the following Monday, assuming things aren't finished. But they were hoping we were supposed to be finished with the prosecution by tomorrow. I don't know if that's still going to, and that defense was supposed to be starting up on next Thursday. I'm not sure if that's still going to happen because we missed today. They're also trying to figure out when to do jury charging instructions because they wanted to have the judge wanted to sort out what the charging instructions would be sometime between, and you used time sometime between the prosecution resting and the defense starting, and when that's going to be. She was even talking about doing that on a Saturday. I don't know what's going to be with that, or if they're actually going to. I don't know what they're going to do with that, because everything got thrown out of whack by this day off today.
Yeah. There's a question in the chat about how does Ghislaine look throughout all of this? Has she been? How is her? Have you been able to get any view of her?
Oh yeah, give me 1 second.
All right. Hi, Holmesy. Holmes is still wearing a bow tie, in case anyone is interested. That's been Ghislaine the whole time. Sorry, I don't think you heard me because you didn't have your headphones on. That's been Ghislaine the whole time.
The entire time.
The entire time.
You can't see anything. You would. It seriously could be a body double. We don't know what. There's nothing.
So because I asked because, well, obviously because somebody in the chat asked, but the other reason is because, I saw that one of the early sketches was she was staring at the sketch artist and drawing the sketch artist or something like that. I saw something like that come out in one of the first few days. Have you seen any sort of like weird behavior like that or anything off?
More descriptions and testimony of weird behavior, aside from the whole boys and weenie. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Like Kate, the second victim, who's not, and anything that happened with her is not chargeable because she was 17. She said she was just bizarre in the way she seemed like quirky, and they've all said quirky and odd, and yet when you hear the men talk about her, they say spectacular personality. That's what the pilots have said about her. And then you hear people who are underlings like Juan Alessi, and he's like, he describes her as being Cruella de Vil. Like, interesting. Like that she basically would she practically would raise her leg up and put it on his shoulder so she could relieve himself on his pants. That's how she was just evil, like really evil to him in a Cruella de Vil type way of just like, how dare you get any detergent other than Tide? What were you thinking? Are you an incompetent that you don't get Tide? We expressly wrote Tide. Why would you buy Clorox or whatever other stupid brand?
Yeah,
this or is Gain. The sort of thing.
Why would you get Gain?
Yeah, why? Who gets Gain? Tide. We told you Tide. Yeah, and Downy, we told you change the scent of the fabric softener every 3 months. I've had the same pine smell for the last 6 months. It's what's wrong with you? Like that sort of literally like that level
that
of
kind
criticism.
Of like berating and dressing down for like a very minor detail.
That's the way that's the way she's come across. There hasn't been testimony about her making statements like that, but that's how he basically was saying like every little thing. It's like it's never right.
Oh,
it's
man.
Never right.
Oh man. Well, okay. Well, thank you so much for updating all of us on this. This has been really, really great. Even though there ended up not being any trial today. That's a bummer. That's a huge bummer, especially since you won't be able to you might get cut off short before you can finish watching the cross-examination tomorrow.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's a much shorter cross than is expected.
No. I expect look, the one thing about Judge Nathan, and I want to say this, Judge Nathan has done a great deal to impress me. And throughout this trial, she has been, every ruling she's made, and some of them have gone, some really big ones have gone for the prosecution, and some really big ones have gone for the defense. And every one of them, I was like, that's a sound ruling. I don't like it. It sucks.
Yeah.
Because it sucks that the prosecution did something wrong, and that's why they're not able to admit this evidence, or wow, thank God we got this in. But like every one of them, I was like, from a legal perspective, she's handling this
good.
She's following the law, and she's
Good.
doing it fairly. So,
And that's all you can really ask for out of a judge, and that's really all you should ask for out of a judge, is that the decisions that they make, even if they're not good for the side that you want to win, that the decisions are made with reason and with logic, and that they are good logic. Haha. Sorry.
I see what you did there.
Bum, 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 bow. No, and that they're done, that you can at least understand it and you can respect it, even if it's not exactly the result that you want.
Yes, and she also runs a very tight ship, which is what I was really getting at.
I like that
with
too.
your question. So she'll be like, okay, 45-minute lunch, and and if it's fourth and the testimony finishes, we finish cross and redirect at 4:52. She'll be like, okay, there's 8 minutes left. Do you want to bring the next witness? And you're like sort of looking like, really? And they'll sometimes be like, okay, and they'll bring up the next witness, and they'll get sworn in, and they'll ask them like 9 questions, and maybe introduce an exhibit, and then she'll be like, okay, it's 5:00, we're done. And 5:00 sharp, when she wrapped up twice at 5:02 and apologized to the jury for ending late. Like, that's how meticulous she is about time.
I like that. That is the jury, I would imagine, probably really likes that judge for that reason, because they feel like their time isn't being wasted.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I like it. So,
anyway,
anything else to let us know coming out of this trial?
Yeah. I think she's gonna be convicted. That's my early take. I think she's gonna get what she's gonna be convicted of. I'm not sure. I actually want to sort of break down the charges and then piece something together. I'll tell you this. At night, I'm starting to get a little bit more public exposure from like other outlets. So if you follow me on my locals, which I got listed there in my name, goodlogic.locals.com, I sort of give updates about where I'm going to be appearing and talking. Like I'm supposed to be on the Sitch and Adams show on Sunday at 4, and I'm doing like some Seattle radio talk. There's talk about me potentially getting on Tim Pool.
Hey, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be pretty freaking cool.
It's
I personally don't want that to happen, because then you will definitely outpace me on subscribers.
Oh, you can be fast on me. I see how it is.
Because I know you're doing the same thing.
I'm bringing it's so true. I'm like, I can't grow my hair like that. I gotta find some way, some angle, something. And then along came Ghislaine. So your channel, thank God, I only wanted to grow higher and higher. You do phenomenal work.
Thank you. And so do you, and you are working so hard, and I'm so happy for all of the growth that you've been seeing. And I sincerely do hope that it's that it continues, because you really have been putting in those hours and really doing God's work with this trial, for sure. So I really hope that continues for you. And I do, for the record, hope that you do get onto Tim Pool, because that would be awesome. That would be what? That's now 3 out of LawTube getting onto Tim Pool. That'd be pretty good. Actually, that would mean that my odds are getting pretty good.
Ron Coleman was on Tim Pool a while ago also.
So you would be number 4 then.
I would be, I would be number 4. And I
guess technically 5, because Barnes and Viva, I think of them as a package deal, but
That's true. So, but I actually said my first super chat ever yesterday on Tim Pool, when he had a guest on who was complaining about the fact that there's no coverage. And I was like, dude, I'm a New York litigator. I've been there every day of this trial. I'm a member of LawTube. I have 35,000 subs. You probably should get me on. I'm just saying, I'm not like some nobody here that, somebody with 200 subs that no one ever heard of, who's, I have enough of a following, and I'm the only one doing this. It's not, I'm telling you, there are no lawyers doing this. It's a bunch of reporters, and I will sit there and explain to them what the argument about hearsay is, during the break, because none of them know what the hell is happening. I feel it's so weird. I feel like I'm the only human who actually knows what's happening in this trial, aside from the defense counsel and the prosecution. There's no other attorneys in the world who've been following this day by day.
I wish I could be there. I wish I could.
Everyone wishes they could. This is a phenomenally, ridiculously amazing circumstance from my own personal growth. But on the other hand, it sucks that there isn't more coverage, because the whole world has no idea what's happening in this trial.
Yeah.
So I urge your following, please.
Yes.
please make sure that you sign up and hit the bell, because Susan, literally, I had someone was commenting my chat yesterday. This is I'm telling you, I only speak truth. Someone said that they subscribed, and 3 minutes later they were unsubscribed to me and found that they were subscribed to some channel supporting Biden and another one, like literally not just unsubscribed from me, but subscribe. And like all of a sudden they're like following the Young Turks. They're like, how the hell did this happen? But
yeah, the same thing has been happening to me.
Subscribe and hit the bell, and yeah, the same thing happens to you, right? They're just like,
I've gotten some people commenting saying, I don't know how I got unsubscribed, but I definitely consciously subscribed to this. To your channel. So yeah, agreed. You guys, if you think you're subscribed, go and double check that you are subscribed to both our channels, but definitely Good Logic's, because he's doing some great work, and you definitely want to be hitting that notification bell so that you can see his updates when he does post about the trial, because you're not going to get this information from anyone else, or his analysis. Yeah. There's nothing like it. So links are in the description below to Good Logic and to Nate the lawyer, who was here earlier. Thankfully he was carrying the stream when I had tech issues, and I was Kyle Rittenhouse's rifle supposedly being pointed at the Zeminskis, like I was that pixelated. It was that bad, right?
You were hocus pocus out of focus.
I was hocus pocus out of focus, pinch and zoom. I don't know. What other kind of rhyme can we do with that?
That's great.
But Angry Bandling wants to know where's his NYPD hat you promised?
I don't know what the hell he's talking about. I don't know what he's talking about. I do need to now that I have a day off today, I should probably take the time to organize my channel and like put up like something like this hat for sale or other stuff to make available to the public. Maybe I'll start trying to figure that sort of stuff out, because I suck at self-promotion and that sort of way. I'm good at selling the grift, but not actually creating products that people can
I just go and have jokes with people on Twitter, and then when somebody says, hey, I actually would kind of like this, and I'm like, oh, how about this? And then I go and do it, and then I'm like, here you go. And they're like, oh, okay, I'll actually go and buy it.
Really?
That's how I do it. Yeah, it's literally like in the moment.
I don't even know how you create your own merch and stuff like that.
Teespring makes it very easy.
I don't know.
If you open an account on Teespring, it makes it very easy. D says Daily Wire has a lawyer in the room. They're preparing a report on this, but not talking to anyone currently. Yes.
Who? So what's the lawyer's name? I want to know. Every day in the room? Really? I'd like to meet him. Or her. I would love to talk to them. Get their thoughts about what their take on it, because I have not seen anyone, and I've talked to so many different people in that room. I've not met anyone with any. Let's put it like this: I haven't met anyone with any kind of YouTube presence at all. Maybe there's someone who's hanging out there who has like 12 followers and they're reporting on it. That's possible. But I've been there every day, and I think I've seen virtually every person who's covering this, all 70 to 90 people who are covering this at some point or another. I don't get all their names, but like I'll be talking to somebody like, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from the Daily Beast. Oh, I'm from NBC. Oh, I'm from ABC. Oh, I'm from Channel 5. I'm from Sky News. I'm from Australia. I'm from Aussie this or whatever, BBC. And I'm talking to them. And some of those people will be attorneys, but they don't have a platform that they can control and talk about this for more than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
They get their little 7-minute window slot and then they're done. But no one's I haven't met any lawyers who are doing this. I would love to meet them and get their thoughts on the trial.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I agree. And I think you are in a very unique position, and so many of us are very grateful for it, that you are taking this effort. So
it's my pleasure, and I just want to bring it to the world. So I'm doing my best.
All right.
It was great, and that's why people like you are great, because you actually give me a chance to talk to new people. And I appreciate that opportunity.
You're always welcome here.
I know. We're good.
So anyway, well, that should about do it for today. This has been wonderful. Thank you guys for sticking through all the tech problems, the internet problems, the pixelation problems, and tossing or handing off the baton between Nate and me and Good Logic. This has been a really, really great update. And we'll see you guys in the next video.
Godspeed.